Good morning, Tempo freaks and Raptor freaks. Lexiots here is Saturday morning, and we have to react to a Raptors victory over the Memphis Grizzlies in the unofficial Naismith Cup. And well, the Toronto Tempo had their expansion draft yesterday, and 11 women were selected to be the original selections for the Toronto Tempo franchise. And well, old Lex outdid himself. I did like a crazy amount of research yesterday on the 11 women that were selected. So this guy is an instant expert on the Toronto Tempo as of this morning. So yeah, you guys got questions about the expansion draft tomorrow. I got the answer. The expansion draft yesterday, I got the answers. So if you want to know the down low on the 11, well, we're going to go over all of them today. And I'm going to talk about some very interesting things that I've discovered about the logic and reasoning of Eli Horowitz and Monica Wright Rogers. They did good. Let's just put it that way. They did good. They did real good. Yeah. All right. Well, we should start with the Raptors game, of course, the first, and then we'll get into those profiles on the women of the tempo setters. They're setting the table for the tempo. A disclaimer, though, on the tempo information. The women that were selected in the draft yesterday, the 11, none of them are guaranteed to actually be tempo this season. There's going to be all kinds of different possibilities of things that could happen. And much like the Raptors, when they did their expansion draft, there were picks that never, ever actually took the court for the Toronto Raptors. So we have to be realizing this. As I've said, I'll say right now, in some ways we got a pillar or two of our new team, and there's one player in particular that I'm pretty sure is going to be a pillar of our new team. But we're going to get a pillar in the draft on the 13th when we take a college player at the 6th pick. That's going to be definitely an important player for this tempo team. And don't forget, unrestricted free agents around the WNBA. I have a very strong feeling we're going to get one or two very, very key ones that may end up being two of the pillars of this team also on top of what we've already got from yesterday. But it's a good start. And their strategy and what they did yesterday was very sound. And I really dig just how intelligent the Toronto Tempo franchise is so far and the things that they've had to do. Very much. Yeah, I got your answers. I'm going to start my coverage of them the same way I do the Raptors, and it's positive, baby, and it's good, and they are winning. They are winning. You know, there was something weird that happened, though, with the first pick in the expansion draft. We'll talk about that. That was shady, and that was messed up. It was messed up, but in some ways, I understand it. And I'll go over it and why it happened the way it did. And some people are upset because Bridget Carlton is not a Toronto Tempo today. Well, it's complicated. And in some ways, it's the right move and it's the right thing for how it all shook out, even if Portland Fire is looking a little salty. A little kind of okay, it's like that, huh? It's gonna be like that, huh? All right. As some in WNBA circles have said, the Portland Fire has declared they want a feud with the Toronto Tempo before anybody was even picked. Their first pick ignited this feud because they took Bridget Carlton, Ontario native, who away from her dream to be an original Toronto Tempo. It's crazy. It's crazy stuff. Alas, we had a Raptors game last night, and the men of the Raptors took care of business. Came into Memphis and took care of business. They didn't look good all the time. They were shaky at times. Maybe there was a little bit of worry. Oh, my gosh, what are they doing? How could they be doing this against this young Memphis Grizzlies team? What are they doing playing with their food? No, there was a point where one of the factors that they have over them was going to overtake the other team and kick their ass and rout them. whether it's going to be veteran experience because they're all more experience on the Raptors than on Grizzlies, with some 10-day contracts out there running around with G.G. Jackson the second and Cedric Coward. And then you got a size advantage even too, which the Raptors took advantage of in the paint, outscoring the Grizzlies pretty bad and out rebounding them. And Carl and Murray-Boyles out there looking Shaquille O'Neal like, dunking on them, and they can't do nothing about it. Yeah, there were a couple of advantages we had in this one. There's also the advantage of being more talented. Just be honest. There's more talent on the Raptors team than there is on the Grizzlies. And at some point, that dam was going to break and the water was going to come flowing through to like a 30-point win. And that's what happened. They were going to bust it open. Darko very happy after the game last night, declaring his team won all 4 quarters and that they took care of business like they were supposed to. Very professional win is what he said. Of course, the Raptors in the last couple of days went to St. Jude's Hospital, a place that's near and dear to Darko from his time when he was assistant coach for the Grizzlies. It's a cause that he has not left, even though he's left the country and he coaches the Canadian NBA team. St. Jude's is still a very important place in his heart. This is a rare occurrence, but this does happen sometimes where a team from another city comes in and does goodwill and good things for another city, like the Raptors did for Memphis the last couple days. The whole entire most of the Raptors team, I won't say the whole team, but most of the Raptors team, including Emmanuel Quickley, Scotty Barnes, Jakob Poeltl, Colin Murray-Boyles, Garrett Temple, Grady Dick, Trace Jackson Davis, went to St. Jude's with Darko and enlightened and livened up the spirits of young Tennesseans that are in St. Jude's Hospital. And it's always a heartwarming moment to see Scotty with the kids. He loves this kind of stuff. And there's a fun little clip of him and Sandro standing outside St. Jude's, and Scotty's talking about, we're going to St. Jude's. Scotty's been there. He's been there a few times because Darko goes through there every time they come through Memphis on the road trip. They go through there. And Scotty likes going to these trips to Sick Kids Hospital in Toronto and St. Jude's in Memphis. And well, they're talking before, and Scotty says to Sandro, I love seeing you every day. You're so fun. I love you. And Sandro says, same thing too, Scotty. I love you too, man. Scotty, like, it's so funny. It's so pure and beautiful. But yeah, they put all these weird little like bedazzles on their faces. It was weird. They were like a game app. What is it? Bejeweled or something like that. It's like you got to move the jewels around and connect 3 or 4 of them, and they disappear off the screen. Well, they're on their faces. These little kids are bedazzler terrorists, terrorizing the Raptors' faces with bedazzling them with all kinds of like intricate patterns around their face with these different things around there. It's pretty cool. But yeah, the kids look like they had a lot of fun. And you know what? In some ways, the Raptors and the Raptors organization and Darko Rajakovic are heroes in the city of Memphis. Of course, recently, LeBron James came out and said some horrible things about the city of Memphis, Tennessee. And Anthony Edwards said some crap earlier this season, too. It's getting a real bad rep. It seems like there's a lot of people out there that want to see that team get moved out of Memphis, and they're not afraid of voicing their opinions. And it's usually jackasses like Ant-Man and LeBron voicing that there's nothing to do in Memphis. It's not fun like other places. Like there is anything to do in Utah either. So shut up, And the Memphis fans, well, there's the Raptors Redditor of the day. Let's go talk about it real quick. Altruistic Bree female 44444. They're saying this. I just want to shout out your coaching staff and say thank you to your organization for showing love to our city after LeBron aired us out to the world. Pure class. Good luck the rest of the season. Because there's a post on Twitter of Darko saying this in the press conference after the game. I don't care what the rest of the world thinks. I have my opinions. I love the people of Memphis. I had an amazing time here living in East Memphis in Germantown. I love the food. I love every time I come here. Yeah, he's like saying Darko, who is assistant coach for the Memphis Grizzlies prior to Toronto, and the Raptors players visited St. Jude's Hospital in Memphis. Darko, even in Toronto, often places a St. Jude lapel pin on his shirt. Darko's a real one. Yeah, sometimes this kind of stuff doesn't go away. If you know that this is an institution that does good work and that is absolutely helping the community and doing so many amazing things, and you believe in their mission, you're going to stand by them in their mission and doing all that kind of stuff. So this like it's really awesome in some ways that he stood up for Memphis. And this is a Memphis fan coming into our Raptors Reddit and giving us props and wishing us well for it. You know, watching the game on the Memphis broadcast last night with Brevin Knight and the other guy, they talked a lot about Darko and talked him up. And because he's a former Grizzlies assistant, the Memphis people have no problem giving him his props and really talking him up. So there was a lot of very glowing things they said about the 3 years of Darko coaching the Raptors and how he's built up our team. And well, they told no lies. And I appreciated them for that. They were very, very proud of him wearing the Memphis pin, the St. Jude's pin. And also, you know, he's wearing the autism shoes right now for the coach in Utah also. So it's like there's a lot of good stuff, man, about that. So thank you to our Raptors Redditor of the day. It's a Grizzlies fan named Altruistic Bree F4444. Yeah, that's that. You know, look, that's not bad to have the respect of your adversaries for being a good humanitarian and doing good in the world. You know what I'm saying? We need more love like that and more people out there doing stuff like that, you know, right now, these days. That's right. Let's get into the chat with you guys. Is Trevor J, the commissioner of fun, holding it down for us in the state of Florida, down in Fort Lauderdale. Yeah, Trevor, what you got to say today? Words of wisdom. 3 things you cannot recover in life. The word after it's said, the moment after it's missed, and the time after it's gone. You know, this is a word of wisdom that sets you up for regret. Regret is something that's silly. I'm like anti-regrets. I think regret is dumb. You know, I can break down all 3 of those kind of situations and say how it's silly to think about this. You're going to say, oh, you cannot recover in life the word after it's said. Well, watch your words. Say what you mean to say. In some ways, if you have autism like me, you can't help but say what you mean to say because there's no filter. In some ways, some people may say, you may regret saying that someday. Well, if it comes to that day, so be it. I'll fall on the sword and from it because, well, I stand by what I said. And in some ways, you know, some people in this world today are going to intimidate people to say, you shouldn't say that because you could get in trouble. Well, if it's going to mean I'm going to get in trouble, it's going to be good trouble because I believe in freedom of speech. And I don't think people should be afraid to say what they should say, especially when the world's gone mad and crazy with the crazy ass criminal in the White House. So it's like, look, you can be careful with your words. You can be a quiet person. You can keep your opinions to yourself. When you can be like me, the opposite. And either way, you got to go forward bravely. And yeah, there's things I've said in the past that I can't take back that have hurt people that I feel bad about. But also at the same time, there's a lot of things that some people would say, you shouldn't say that. And they're only saying that because they want me to shut up because I'm telling the truth. So yeah, you can look at this a couple of different ways. I don't regret anything I've said. And when I've hurt someone and hurt their feelings, I've apologized for it and come back correctly with the right response. It's up to you. You write a check every time you open your mouth and say something. And well, Lex is writing a lot of checks every day at 9:30 on a 2-hour program called the Raptors Free. But I don't worry about this. Yeah, I don't worry about this. It's you can miss a moment after it's gone. Well, the way I look at this is if it didn't happen, it wasn't supposed to. And there's no reason to miscalculate or misrepresent or get upset about something you thought you missed out on because you didn't take advantage of that opportunity, that moment. If you weren't ready and you didn't do it, it wasn't going to happen. So there's never a doubt or regret about moments missed because that wasn't intended for you. Your life path and God's creation and creative for you, you're doing it, and it doesn't matter. Don't second guess this. That it wasn't supposed to happen. And if you go into a whole image in your head, oh, this would have happened, this could have happened, and this would have happened, you're stupid. You shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't do that. And then the other one, yeah, yeah, I think that's it right there. Yeah, in some ways, it's like, look, man, you could safeguard your life from regret. You really can. The raccoons destroyed my bird feeder last night, and the poor little birds are looking for the food, and the bird feeder is on the ground destroyed. And I feel bad for the chickadees right now. I feel like I need to go give them some bird seed. But alas, the raccoons have ruined it for you. I have to build a better bird feeder. This is constantly a struggle. Building the right bird feeder that's squirrel proof. And well, now I got to consider the raccoons. They're fat asses. Bent my brand new squirrel proof bird feeder over by using their weight. And well, I got to build it better so they can't get up there. Yeah, that's stupid, man. So dumb. Trevor J has brought this up. Big day for the Tempo yesterday, putting together a very good group of players, very high quality players who can run the court. Yeah, let's talk about this group and let's talk about what they are overall. They're European. That's what they are overall. Very European. There's like 8, 9 countries represented in the 11 women that they selected yesterday. In fact, the first ever Toronto Tempo player, much like BJ Armstrong for the Raptors or Damon Stoudemire, we should remember Damon, honestly. Forget about BJ. Is Julie Allemand. Julie Allemand is from Belgium, and she played for the Los Angeles Sparks last year. She's a 5'10" point guard that averaged 5 assists a game last year. She's one of the few true point guards in the league. What I found out from my research yesterday is that it's scarce to find a playmaker, a tempo setter, and a floor general like Julie Allemand in the WNBA. And in fact, Los Angeles Sparks fans are lamenting this morning that she's gone because they feel like nobody's going to be able to run their offense correctly like a point guard should now that the Tempo have swooped in and snatched her as the first pick in our expansion draft ever. Julie Allemand. Now, she's a fantastic pick for the Tempo because she speaks French. She's from Belgium, and she's going to do all these French interviews for the French community in Canada. You know she's going to be doing that Pascal, y'all. She's going to be doing that. Now, Julie's interesting. She's kind of like, to me, reminiscent of Damon Stoudemire. Is like, what did we do? One of our first framework players for the Raptors was to get a small point guard that was a true point guard that Isaiah Thomas saw himself in, that he loved. And it was a great, fantastic pick. So the first building block that Monica Wright Rogers selected was Julie Allemand, the only true point guard that was really available in this draft. And in somewhat cases, the WNBA experts are lauding the Raptors, the Tempo. Sorry, I may do this from time to time. Just apologize. They're lauding the Tempo for being astute enough to take the floor general that Julie is. There's a lot of speculation that the combo of Coach Brondello with Julie Allemand is going to be a very, very strong combination. That, you know, you've got your hard drive of brain for the team with Julie and Coach Brondello, and that she's going to be that connection between Coach Sandy and the extension of her on the court will be Julie Allemand. Yeah, she's an interesting player. She's a very interesting player. She's decorated. This is the other thing about, you know, there's so many European women that were selected yesterday by the Tempo. And some of them, you know, overall, this group does not have a lot of years experience in the WNBA because a lot of them, you know, the age bracket for these women is around 29. There's quite a few players that we drafted yesterday that are 29 years old, but some of them don't even have any experience in the WNBA. And the reason why is because they're foreign players that have been playing in other places and just have not actually came to the WNBA yet. There's a few players like this. And they maybe have played a bit in the WNBA, but they came later, stuff like that. But Julie's an interesting player. You know, she averaged 5 assists a game last year. She has accolades. I mean, a lot of these women, because they're European players, have played Eurobasket and FIBA and EuroLeague, and they've won championships over there. Like, there's a lot of winning in the 11 women that they picked, not only just in a EuroLeague, but for their national teams, because they play for national teams. Like, Julie plays for Belgium, and that's what she was doing in the last couple months between the last WNBA season and the work stoppage. She was representing Belgium in China in FIBA international play for the women's national Belgian team. And well, there's another thing that's very interesting about Alaman and where she's been recently. There's a team in Turkey that is a super team. The WNBA may not have paid their players correctly until recently with the new CBA. And, often these female basketball players make the big money other places. And a place where they pay real good is in Turkey. Turkey has a super team called Fenerbahce. And Fenerbahce is a common thread for 4 of the new Toronto Tempo women. They have all 4 of the players that we selected yesterday are actually teammates already from this Turkish team in the other season away from the WNBA. WNBA's during this period, and well, they have to go do other jobs around the world. And well, Fenerbahce, who's brought in great stars like Brianna Stewart and other huge names like Caleb McBride on their team over the years, they get an all-star team. They pony up big money. And they bring some of the best women basketball players to their team in Turkey, and they compete for championships every year. Well, 4 of our ladies have been around that club in the last 2 years, and Julie Alaman's one of them. She's one of them. So she has time on the court with 2 of her teammates from last year on Fenerbahce, and that's Niara Sabali and Nikolina Milic. They were all teammates last year. So there's already, with the problem with this really short off season and short training camp and not having a lot of familiarity with each other. Well, there is actually familiarity between Julie and Nikolina, aka Nina, and also Niara. So, and then you can add in Kitty, who was playing for Fenerbahce 2 years ago, and is familiar with the club. And I think she actually did play with one of them also that year. So there's 4 of them that played for the same Turkish club in the last 2 years. That's building in connections and familiarity right from the start. Right from the start. So yeah, Julie was the first pick ever by the Tempo, but a lot of people wanted to be Bridget Carlton. And what happened there? Well, we won a coin flip a week or so ago that said we had the choice of a couple things. And this was all outlined by Eli Horowitz, the assistant GM of the Toronto Tempo, yesterday in the press conference after the expansion draft. He saw 4 advantages. They saw 4 advantages in this selection process. And well, they collected 3 of the advantages and left 1 over for the Fire. And the first advantage they saw, and I agree with this, I think this is the most valuable one. There's some debate back and forth because some people are real salty that we didn't get Bridget, and this is why we didn't. Was it more important to pick first in the college draft or in the expansion draft? Well, to me, it makes more sense in the college draft, the way they decided, because, picking 6th or 7th in a college draft, that's a big difference. One player is going to be off the table when they come around for 7th. Now, the thing with the expansion draft pool is that it is what it is. It's not going to change. And in some ways, having priority in that doesn't really matter because both teams are going to be making a whole bunch of picks and you can kind of fudge that. So Eli said, all right, the 4 advantages were picking first in the expansion draft, picking first in the college entry draft, picking first in the second round of the expansion draft, and then the other one was waiver wire priority. Well, by choosing that they wanted to pick first in the college entry draft, that meant that the Portland Fire got the first pick in the expansion draft. But it also meant that the Toronto Tempo would get the first pick in the second round of the expansion draft, and they would get the waiver wire rights first, be the number 1 team on the waiver wire. So Eli explained yesterday, we saw 3 advantages in going that route and the other way would have had only one advantage. Now, alas, that one advantage was what led to the Portland Fire taking Bridget Carleton. And a lot of people are pissed off. And, we're looking at it and like, first of all, the draft coverage yesterday was dismal, 0 out of 10. ESPN, you suck. What is this crap? We expected an expansion draft where they announced the names separated from each other and coming up to the podium and saying the Toronto Temple have selected Julie Alamont. And then boom, we'll wait, do the next one. No, you guys did like the first 2 picks and then you just dropped both rounds all at once to have all the names right in our faces all at once. And it was so anticlimactic. It was such bad broadcasting. It was a complete drop the ball of the very fervent interest and enthusiasm of WNBA fans and new fans of the Fire and the Tempo. You guys dropped the ball. This was the most anticlimactic shit. This is a big pile of crap, and y'all really screwed up. Like, you could have marketed this way better. You could have grown the legend of the WNBA better. You could have made people care more, and you could have done it in a dramatic way. Some people say, well, nobody cares about this. Nobody cares about these teams. Nobody cares about the WNBA. That's the attitude that makes the broadcasting and the coverage of it so shitty. And I hate that. I want to see this change. In some ways, it was jarring just how far behind the WNBA's coverage is and how it should be done fairly in the right way. That pissed me off, man. I think it pissed off almost everybody. I think everybody that tried to watch that expansion draft yesterday was extremely disappointed in the broadcast decisions. Like, it's really dumb. They drop the whole list in the first 10 minutes of the program, and then for 20 minutes you just sit around and talk about it. It's like you couldn't even designate a whole hour to this. And the way y'all did it was so tacky. I hate it. So yeah, the Fire took Bridget Carleton with the very first pick in the expansion draft, blocking her coming to Toronto. And in some ways, Bridget Carleton wanted that. The Tempo wanted that. In fact, Monica Wright-Rogers made a tell at the post conference saying that, yeah, we wanted our Canadian, but we didn't get her in this mode of our preseason. We didn't get our Canadian. We do want to get a Canadian, but we couldn't get her because Portland was assholes. And they knew that we wanted her. I guess they wanted her too. So in some ways, strategically, they blocked us from getting Bridget. But this is the thing. She's the unrestricted free agent, and they picked her right off the bat. And that designation, each of the 2 expansion teams yesterday got to pick one unrestricted free agent. Now, there's all kinds of strategy questioning about how we went about picking ours later on, and I'll talk about that too. But this is the thing. What they're going to have to do with Bridget is they're going to have to make her a core player, and they probably plan to. I mean, it'd be a waste of time to draft her like that, not make her a core player, and then she turns around and sides with the Toronto Tempo anyway, because they didn't protect her by making her a core designation. This is possible. This is the crazy shit about this, because she's a UFA and she can choose. But if that's the thing, if we decide to do this for Mabry, they decide to do this for Carleton, what it means is they're going to be big time players, like paid players. Like, they're going to go into the balloon of the new salary structure of the CBA, coming in as being rich women. Seriously. And that's what they're going to do. Is probably Bridget Carleton's viewed as a 2-way player that's a very good defender and has some good sharp shooting skills, and she's on the rise. She's at that age in her WNBA career where she's going to start blossoming in her prime, and this is what Portland Fire are counting on. So they're going to have to put a core designation on her, and they're going to have to pay her a big chunk of money and keep her there. That's great for Bridget personally. She's going to be very rich, but it's not exactly the local hometown dream she wanted to. But there is signs of her reacting to the Portland Fire acquiring her, as she's happy. Let's go. Let's get it, is what she's saying. So either way, she's going to get paid. She's either going to get paid a lot of money by Portland, or they're not going to do that, which is stupid. Why did you even draft her in the first place? And maybe she can circle back and still get on Toronto, even though they made her the first pick for them. In some ways, it's sad because It would have been fun to have the first pick ever, the first player ever for the Toronto Tempo be a Canadian woman, and Bridget Carleton could have been that person instead of Julie Allemand. But Portland Fire, Grinch. They're Grinch. They're salty. And in some ways, they got in the way of that. And a lot of Toronto Tempo fans are calling foul on it. And they already have an angsty, like, yeah, fuck y'all. We're going to beat your ass in the season kind of attitude now. And I like it. It's kind of funny to have a rivalry already just off the first pick of an expansion draft. Yeah, shots fired, Portland Fire. And well, Toronto Tempo, we're going to show you that, man, why'd y'all do that to Bridget? Either way, Bridget's getting paid. Either way, she's getting paid. Oh, yeah, she is. She's getting paid. That's right. Trevor's saying people saying that was some BS from ESPN with the WNBA expansion draft. Could have just put it up on Twitter. Yeah, why are you wasting our time? Why are you making a big deal? Nobody need to tune in for this the way you did it. You could have just released the whole list on social media, and we could just got it that way. Why'd you do it this way? It's stupid. There's a building interest in this league. Are you self-sabotaging it from within? ABC, Disney, ESPN? Like, seriously, do you on the download hate the WNBA, but you have to cover it? So you're going to self-sabotage it by doing a shitty coverage of it? Why wouldn't you take that avalanche of enthusiasm and excitement and build with it that's coming at the league? People are all built up because of the CBA and worried that there wasn't even going to be a season. And, common WNBA fan was interested in this expansion draft because they all had stakes in it because they were players they could lose for their team. And y'all could have made it way more dramatic and climactic for each of the other fans of the teams that are existing in WNBA. Oh, no, not Marina Mabrey. No, that could have been a whole thing that was drawn out for an hour. And it could have been torturous for fans of existing teams in the WNBA. But no, you didn't feel like doing it that way. That could have been a ride. But y'all obviously don't know how to build up stuff like wrestling, pro wrestling, and Vince McMahon and WWE kind of stuff. Y'all could have made it more of a spectacle. Instead, you made it a sheet of paper. And that's what Trevor's saying here. You made a sheet of paper. Like, what the fuck was that? Seriously. Trevor's saying this. Good win by the Raptors over the Memphis Grizzlies. RJ Barrett and Colin Murray-Boyles, my stars of the game. Jacoby was plus 39 on the court last night. All right, Trevor, you won't bring up stars of the game. Let's talk about the Raptors. I may be shifting gears back and forth between the Raptors game and the WNBA draft yesterday. So, yeah, my number one star of the game for last night is RJ. I love RJ's game. RJ's just been so steady, so efficient. And, even when the Raptors were kind of looking bad last night, RJ is still steady and going to get points for us and holding a line of quality. Even when our team is looking like, why are we losing to these young Grizzlies that seem so, raw and wild? Why? Well, RJ's out there keeping a steady quality control out there. 29 minutes for Rowan Barrett Jr., 25 points. 9 of 17 from the field, including 4 of 6 from beyond the arc. 3 of 4 from free throws, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 turnovers, and a block, a plus 26 for RJ Barrett. Yeah, I had to give me, he was the leading scorer, and in some ways he did it efficiently. He's the number one star in my book. Yeah, Star J is always a number one star in my heart. That's right. My second star of the game is the other guy he mentioned, Colin Murray-Boyles. And Colin got the chain last night. That's right. Colin was off the chain. Some Raptors fans on Raptors Reddit are making allusions that he's like Dennis Rodman. But once again, I'm going to say it, y'all. If you go back and watch the footage, it's Charles Barkley he's like. He's not like Dennis Rodman because, first of all, Dennis Rodman was a pogo stick that liked to hop on one foot with one arm and tipping it all like this and like going like this. Murray-Boyles is a more grounded player like Charles, more 2 foot jumping, like jumping off 2 feet and having that quick elevator. And there's more and more that I see, like the offensive rebounding and the different things he's doing. That's Charles Barkley shit, man. Charles Barkley, way better offensive player near the basket. Dennis Rodman, not. Dennis Rodman could flub bunnies, and he was not known for his post moves or his ability to play people down low and score on them. He was more just a garbage man that put back shots, but he wasn't somebody who'd get the ball and then make offense happen. No, but Charles Barkley was. So, yeah, Colin was awesome, man. Off the bench, he didn't start again. 23 minutes, 19 points on 7 of 10 shooting. This is his career high. This is the most points he scored this year as a rookie. 5 of 8 at the free throw line. He's still got to clean up his free throws. There's a couple of young Raptors that are not shooting well at the free throw line, and they need to work on their concentration, honestly. 4 rebounds for Colin, 1 assist, 0 turnovers, a plus 22. Just, the thing that was powerful about Colin yesterday was his post, was his ability to make baskets in the paint, and the Grizzlies couldn't do jack shit about it. So he put some real effort out there. He worked hard, and he got the post-game interview too after the game. So good job, Colin Murray-Boyles. One of your best games this season, and a well-earned chain. A well-earned chain. My third star of the game for the game last night is Brandon Ingram. Brandon woke up and had a pretty efficient game. We saw some fire in him. We saw an amazing dunk that he did, but they called an offensive foul on him. The refs were bad last night. The refs were very one-sided, and it didn't matter. In some ways, the refs were doing that because they knew the Grizzlies need a life preserver so they wouldn't drown in a game like that. So in some ways, to try and even the score out and make it somewhat entertaining on TV, they're going to give all these kind of calls, 50-50 calls to them, especially Simone Jelks. She hates the Raptors. Every single 50-50 call that could have gone called either way, it was her calling Memphis for each one of them, which was annoying. But yeah, Brandon, 26 minutes, 17 points, 6 of 11 from the field, 2 of 3 from 3, 3 of 3 at the free throw line, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 turnovers, and a block, a plus 27. I love seeing Brandon collect other stats. And 7 rebounds with 5 assists. Woo-wee! Keep going, smooth man, Notorious BI3. And having your lady Glorilla at the court side, and the Memphis crowd loves her. They showed her on the screen, and people going crazy. And in-game ops for Memphis Grizzlies were playing her music, and people were dancing to it and stuff. So she's a big celebrity in Memphis. They love Glorilla, and, well, she loves Brandon Ingram. And Brandon Ingram had a fantastic game last night. So thank you, Brandon. Even though you got only 17 points, it was efficient in what you needed to do. And you know what? I saw you giving more of a shit and caring more and putting more effort out there. So I salute you, man. I like it when you're trying. I like it when you're trying. My 4th star of the game for the win over the Grizzlies last night is Jamal Shed. Jamal Shed off the bench was fantastic. In some ways, he was very methodical as the backup point guard and very efficient. 23 minutes for Shed, 11 points. 2 of 3 shooting, 1 of 2 from 3. He's 6 of 7 at the free throw line, 1 rebound, 6 assists, 2 turnovers, 2 steals, a plus 20. Shed's just a great floor general. He's a guy who can keep us settled down and organized, and he's so important on defense as a pit bull and just getting in there and fighting. So appreciate you, Jamal Shed. Thank you for your efforts last night and what you did. My last star of the game is going to be Scotty. Yeah, I got to give some credit to Scotty, even though he didn't have a great scoring game, only scoring 10 points. But, Scotty's the glue to our team. Scotty's doing all kinds of stuff on the down low to help us win that's not in the stat sheet. He's in the shadow box score. And there's so many little micro things that he does every single NBA game that it just doesn't get any credit for and it is not accounted. So I want to, in some ways, give Scotty major props, even though the game line from him last night is not the most impressive. I'm recognizing that he does so much more than what the box score shows. And, well, Scotty, 23 minutes, 10 points on 4 of 6 shooting. He missed his only 3, 2 of 2 at the free throw line, 3 rebounds, 6 assists with 5 turnovers. The 5 turnovers are a problem. 2 steals also, a plus 14 for Scotty Barnes. He's human. And they didn't need the starters as much yesterday, which was fantastic. These guys only playing like 23 minutes and not 30 minutes. That meant a lot of development time for the younger guys and the bench guys. So that's good. That's a good thing right there. We'll go ahead and go over the rest of them. Sure, we'll give an honorable mention to Jacoby Walter, who had a very extremely high plus minus as Trevor said. 28 minutes for Walter. He started with 7 points, 2 of 9 from the field. He didn't shoot the greatest. 0 for 3 for his threes, 3 for 3 at the free throw line. 8 rebounds, though, for Walter. 1 assist, 0 turnovers, 2 steals, a plus 39. So the Raptors were outscoring the Grizzlies when he's out there. He's probably given a really good extra defensive effort for Jacoby. Jakob Poeltl is an honorable mention also. He didn't do too bad. 23 minutes, 8 points, 4 of 6 shooting, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 0 turnovers, 2 steals, and a block, a plus 14. You get a little sampler platter of Yak, getting a block, a couple steals, 7 rebounds, 4 assists. And the Mamu Yak lineups are undefeated. They're awesome, man. When we have Sandro and Jakob out there at the same time, those lineups just seem to work real well. And it's kind of like, to me, that tells us that the small ball era and small ball in the NBA is kind of dying, because we're thriving with a too big lineup. And often they're putting Scotty and Colin out there with them too. So it's like a really crazy big lineup. But yeah, I like the Mamu Yak. We've been getting a lot of Mamu Yak lineups lately, and they've really worked. And then, of course, Poeltl in his two-man game with anybody, whether it's RJ, whether it's Scotty, it's just awesome. Poeltl is such a great roller, and he's such a relief valve, and he's just an easy basket. And he's somebody that Scotty and RJ and different players look for. They know if he's in a certain position in a place, he's going to make a basket, because that's what he does. Sandro, a little bit less of a normal game for him. Not as efficient. 21 minutes, 10 points, 2 of 5 shooting, 1 of 4 from 3, 5 of 6 at the free throw line, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 turnover, and he's even for the plus minus. Not bad. He gives his contribution, but it's not as huge as he has in recent weeks. He's still very energetic and doing all kinds of good stuff out there. Y'all, you're going to want to check out Sandro's YouTube channel. His friend Alessandro has been putting together, and it's fun stuff. He did a little game log the other day, Alessandro, talking about his life as a NBA photographer and assistant to Sandro Mamukelashvili. And it's funny, man. Alessandro, you're a funny guy. And the way you produce your content and the way you tell a story is fantastic, man. You're more than just a snapshot artist. You could be a really strong videographer and editor and somebody that can really tell a story and really put cool content together. So keep going, Alessandro, man. Trace Jackson Davis came out for 6 minutes later in the game and got 4 points, 1 of 1 from the field, 2 of 4 at the free throw line. Yeah, the free throws are a problem. Fiercey was saying that last night. Yeah, TJD, man, those free throws are bad. Warriors fans are like, yeah, we're glad we got rid of him. We got a draft pick for him. He sucks. We don't like him. That's what they're saying about Trace, that they think he's a bust. Like they're posting our quote that Darko said he's a long-term project. And they're like, what do you mean it's a long-term project? He was a 4-year player at Indiana, and he's 26 years old. If he's not who he is now, he won't be. I don't know. I don't believe in this shit. I think that Trace is still salvageable. And if we can get him to clean up some things about his game, he can be a very sound rotation player for the Raptors next year. So, yeah, he had 4 points, 2 rebounds, and was a +1. Jamison Battle came in for 5 minutes of garbage time, got 2 points on 1-on-1 shooting and a rebound. Jonathan Mobo got 6 points. 6 minutes, didn't score. 1 rebound, 1 assist, 1 turnover, 2 blocks, though. Jonathan, very active and very useful. You can see the time in 905 the last 2 years has really benefited Mobo with his confidence and his readiness to help the Raptors when his number is called. And when number 2 gets out there, you can expect him to be an active defender. And, well, he's going to get 2 blocks in 6 minutes. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I like that. AJ Lawson got out there, and I was really happy that AJ got a good burn in this Memphis game so that his cousin Bryce, who's in the crowd, could enjoy watching AJ, his namesake. And it's fantastic. 13 minutes for the kid from Brampton, 8 points on 3 of 6 shooting, 1 of 2 from 3, 1 of 2 at the free throw line, 3 rebounds, 1 turnover, 2 steals, and a block, a -7 for AJ Lawson. Yeah, he got in there and he mixed it up and got all kinds of fun stuff in the game, which was awesome. And Elijah Martin, 8 minutes at the end of the game. He missed both his shots. He missed a three. He had 1 rebound, 1 assist. He was even. Yeah, Elijah, he's got to understand, your NBA opportunities, you got to be money and go get those points. You can't miss it all, man. You can't miss free throws. You can't miss open threes. You got to make these shots, bro. It's your NBA career. Do you want NBA points, Elijah Martin? Well, be money. And especially when you're in garbage time and you're barely getting minutes out there, you got to capitalize and make the most of those opportunities and make sure you get some NBA points because your opportunities to get NBA points are here and there, and they're not all the time. So you really got to jump on them. Seriously. Grady Dick, 7 minutes, 7 points, 3 of 7 from the field. He missed both his threes still, though, which is annoying as hell. Grady, make your threes. 1 of 2 at the free throw line, too, which is weird. 4 rebounds for Grady and a +2. Yeah, good all-round effort. We got extended time with the youngsters out there, and we kicked the Grizzlies' ass 128-96. We outscored them in every single frame of the game. All 4 quarters were won by the Raptors, and they just added to the lead. Yeah. On the other side, I'll give credit to G.G. Jackson, who got that crazy dunk in transition, and he threw it down and it was really flying through the air there. 30 points for him in 30 minutes on 10 of 16 shooting with 5 rebounds and 4 turnovers. Yeah, he was their best player. Now, I want to mention Coward, too. Coward is a strong guy. In some ways, he has a physical persona like Karl Malone. Like he's not playing like Karl Malone. He doesn't have any of the offensive skills that Karl Malone used to, but he has a presence on the court that's dangerous because he's like that with his physicality and his strength. So I was impressed with that. If not, he's a little raw and also a little immature with talking trash and acting out on the court still. The rookie, Cedric Coward. But yeah, he's interesting. He's an interesting player. He's got a lot of muscle. And, we'll see how he develops over time. Doing the team stats real quick. Raptors shot 52% from the field to the 40% for the Grizzlies. We did manufacture making 10 more shots than them, 44 field goal attempts made. The three-pointers made, they won 11-9, but we shot way better percentage. They took 42 threes and only made 26% of them. Free throw line, we did get the line a lot more than them. So we shot 76% at the free throw line. We beat them at the free throw line. We beat them at the rebounding, 51-38, which was fantastic. Assist to turnover ratio. The Raptors were 31 assists, 16 turnovers. So not even 2-1. Not one of their better, too many turnovers. In some ways, that's playing down to a young, wild team that's aggressive. In some ways, that team wasn't organized, but they were energetic and they were wild. And it was also brought up that, the Raptors don't really know that Grizzlies edition because it's changed so much and all their main players are out and hurt, like Santi and Zach Edey and Ja Morant. So it's like you're playing unknown players. In some ways, Darko and the coaching staff and the Raptors had to kind of walk into this game last night not really having any experience playing most of the guys that they played against last night because they're so young, so raw, and so new. They're just like that. I mean, there was points in the game last night where the Grizzlies had 3 10-day contracts on the court at the same time, guys that just showed up for them like a few days ago. So they're in that kind of mode like we've been in years past, where they're cycling 10 days and kind of doing things to figure out for next year. And that was shown. Yeah, their assisted turnover ratio was 14-20, negative 14 assists, 20 turnovers. Fast break, 21 fast break points for the Raptors, 70 points in the paint. And it's people like Colin Murray-Boyles, Scotty, RJ, and Jakob dominating the paint for them. Yeah, so good job. The biggest lead that the Raptors had in this game was 33 points at a certain point. So fantastic win. They took care of business. In some ways, they didn't totally play down to their competition, although at times they did. We'll just say, when it was shaky and it seemed like, what are they doing messing around with them? They're too close in the second quarter. I'm like, why aren't they just beating their ass? They have all these advantages. Well, it was a little dangerous. In some ways, they could have hung around with them like we did with the Kings, and it would have been a disaster. But no, they put the gas pedal to the metal and they went ahead and kicked their ass at some point. But there was times where it's feeling out the young Grizzlies team, and their energy was kind of competing with us. But we figured it out. We figured it out, and we blew them out by the end of it. And that's what matters right there. Fiercey's here. Good morning to MJ. Good morning, fam, and happy Saturday. Great win yesterday. RJ with his 30th game where he scores 25 points or more. Wow, that's awesome. And Jacoby with an impressive plus 39. Wow. Yeah. Fantastic effort by the Raptors. We took care of it. And now we're set up to play the Celtics tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. on Easter Sunday. And well, crazy things happen in the NBA. A lot of people are just going to expect us to lose that game. But if they really pissed off and they want to make a statement, they go and beat Boston on Easter Sunday in Boston. And, we've lost games we shouldn't have lost. Well, we need to win a game we shouldn't win, right? And that could be tomorrow. I wouldn't count it out of the realm of possibility. Somehow, some way, the Raptors ruin the Celtics' day. That's what I would like to see tomorrow. We'll have to see tomorrow, man. We'll have to see. Yeah, Fiercely saying, I'm hoping the Pistons win against the Sixers tonight. I'm curious to see if they play Embiid as it's a back-to-back. Yeah, there are important games tonight. Let's do a little bit of overview on the games for tonight and what matters. Well, Miami is hosting the Wizards at 3 this afternoon. That game should be a win for the Heat, but who knows? Maybe the Wizards can do something fun and beat down the Miami Heat so that they're even less important. Because in some ways, the Heat are losing. By the time we play them 2 times next week, then maybe those games, they won't be trying as hard because they're kind of like, yeah, we're already kind of just to where we are. We're going to be at the bottom of the play-in. So we'll have to see. That game is important. And then, of course, the back-to-back, the second night of a back-to-back for Nick Nurse and the Sixers, who beat the Timberwolves last night. It sucks. I was really hoping Finch could come through with that one. But they beat them, and they're kept ahead of us in the standings still in the 6th spot, even though our records are the same still. We have the same record. The tiebreaker goes to Philly for their Atlantic Division record. But, yeah, maybe you can do us a solid tonight, Detroit Pistons, and beat down the Sixers in Philadelphia tonight. And that will help the Raptors jump back out of the play-in, honestly. I don't know if there's some strategy for Detroit. Who would you rather play possibly in the first round? I don't think you'd have to play the Sixers in the first round. You probably play a team from the other part of the play-in. Yeah. Let's see. Robert's here. Good to see Robert. Longtime Raptor Freak. Good to see you, man. How you doing? Good morning, Raptor Freak family. Good game last night, but tomorrow is a big one that I hope they can play some solid, smart team ball. We're in a dogfight till the end for that last playoff spot. Can't afford to stumble and play clumsy. Yeah, I agree with all this. This is all stuff that's absolutely true. The Raptors have got to maximize their opportunities. And I will say this right now. I'm going to make a bold prediction right now, today, that the Raptors are either going to beat the Celtics tomorrow or they're going to beat the Knicks in that back-to-back game that everybody thinks they're going to lose both these games. I think they're going to steal one of these 2 games. And it'll partly be to make up for the Kings' loss. And I see it. We'll see if I'm right. We'll see if they surprise some people and they win a game that they aren't supposed to win and win one of these 2 games I just described. So either they beat the Celtics tomorrow or they going to beat the Knicks later this week and the second night of a back-to-back in New York. We'll have to see. We'll have to see if Lex is right, because sometimes I am right about this kind of stuff. Sometimes I am right about this stuff. That's right. Fiercely saying, shame on ESPN for such a poor draft segment. I can also blame the WNBA. Didn't they have a say in the format? How about making it appealing and interactive? Shaking my head. Yeah, it's kind of messed up and it's stupid. They really dropped the ball. In some ways, our enthusiasm, has it waned? No, we're still excited about tempo and the new team coming around and starting up. They got to jump on this. If they don't jump on it, well, Teresa Resch will here, and she'll get it all figured out here at least. But if the overall brand of the WNBA and Kathy Engelbert is going to be asleep at the wheel and doing stupid shit, well, it may take Kilmer Group and Teresa Resch to make the Toronto Tempo so paramount and such a strong brand besides all the ineptitude of the WNBA head office. Yeah, because I could see this because they are inept. And she probably does need to be fired. the president of the WNBA, Kathy. Yeah. Fiercely saying, Lex, I looked at the Fire roster. We have a much better one. Exciting times for the Tempo. Yes. A lot of pundits and fans and YouTubers and, ESPN people afterwards it was very mostly unanimous that they thought that Toronto did way better in the expansion draft yesterday. That a lot of people liked the selection. Some people were saying, some of my friends that are old WNBA fans said, woo, we're going to actually compete in the first year because of key players that we got. And one of them is Niara Sabali. Niara Sabali, I don't know if you guys know Niara, but she's German. She's played on the German national team in recent years. Of course, her sister is Satu, who plays for the Mercury. And they're close. They're very close sisters. Of course, her sister's better than her right now. But Niara is from Oregon, but she's German ancestry, and she plays for the German national team. Well, you know who's the coach of the German national team? Olaf Lang, the associate head coach of the Toronto Tempo. So our Sandy's husband, Olaf, is the national team coach for Niara. And they know each other really, really well. Now, Niara's a center. She's 6'5", and she's 204 pounds. And when I scouted her yesterday, she's a load. She's a very powerful pivot. She's very good at setting picks. She's very good at blocking shots. She's very good at rebounding. So in the first two picks of the expansion draft yesterday, the Toronto Tempo nailed down a point guard, which was rare and tough to find in the league. And then they nailed their pivot. So they went 1 and 5 in their first two picks in the expansion draft. And Sabali is going to look real good as Jakob Pertl kind of role, setting all kinds of picks and freeing up all these sharpshooters that they acquired from Europe yesterday. They got all kinds of great shooters. And some of these women are going to be running around big Sabali and getting wide open looks and getting wide open cuts, running to the basket and easy layups because that big wide body of Sabali is going to be out there for the Toronto Tempo. Not only did she play for Olaf on Team Germany, she's played on Fender Bosch, as I said earlier, with Julie Alamand. And she's played for Coach Sandy Brondello because she is a WNBA champion from the Liberties Championship 2 years ago. And she's been on the Liberty for 3 years. So Sabali, the backup center for the Liberty, has been poached by Coach Sandy, and she's going to be our big pivot. She's going to be our big center. Now, I don't know a whole lot about her downside. I watched her highlight reel, and to me, she looks like she's one of the biggest women on the court at all times when she plays in the WNBA. She looks like she's one of the biggest forces as far as strength and dominance when she plays in the court in the WNBA. Like she's a load. Like nobody else on the court is pushing her around. She's pushing everybody else around. So I like this. Sabali, she's very proud of her German ancestry. And she, in some ways, even though she's born in the United States, is a very European person. Let's just put it that way. So she fits in because she's on the Turkey team. She fits in because she's on the German national team. And she fits in because she's a Liberty champion with Coach Sandy Brondello already as her coach. So listen, I would look at this. Let's Winders this. Why the hell would Sandy Brondello get Niara Sabali in the expansion draft if she thought she was too slow or not good enough or not a good enough project? No, it sounds like she really wanted her because she's coached her already. If she thinks she's lazy, if she thinks she's out of shape, she thinks she's not good enough, well, she knows her. She knows her. And obviously, Olaf knows her too. And the two of them, they know her already. They've already worked on her as a project in her early formative years, coming in as a rookie for the Liberty and playing for the German national team. They wouldn't sign off on Monica going to get her if they thought she was a dead end, right? Because they know her. They know her. They going to say, yeah, we know all the Liberty players. We were just coaching them last year. But why did they pick Sabali? Why did they go say, yeah, she's worth getting? And we're going to get her with the second pick in the expansion draft. Think about that for a second. Think about that. Some people may not be too big on Niara Sabali for different reasons. Maybe they have their different ideas about who she is. But why would they go get her? Why would Olaf and Sandy and them go get her is what I'm saying. So, yeah, we got our pivot. We got our point guard. Julie and Niara. And it's very European. And Julie and Niara are already friends. They've already worked with each other because they played in Turkey in the Turkey League on that mercenary team, Fenerbahce. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty crazy stuff. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Fiercely saying, go Lex. Kudos to you for doing extensive research. Yeah, you want me to keep going? Yeah, I've covered Julie. I've covered Niara. Now let's go look at Marina. Yeah, this is the interesting one. This is the franchise setter right here. Because in some ways, she's a polarizing player in this league. She's somebody a lot of people hate and not many love. That's what I call her right now. She's a Jersey girl. She's got attitude. She's got older brothers and sisters that she played with because that's how she got into basketball. Her older brother loved basketball. Her older sister loved basketball. And well, the little siblings start playing because they were around. In some ways, Marina is the best one out of them, although her older brother tries to say he's the best one. What did Marina Mabry do this year? Well, on the Lunar Owls of the Unrivaled League, she dropped the most points ever in the history of that very young league, Unrivaled. 47 points, dropping them. And when I talk about Marina Mabry, we talk about a high-level scorer shooter who's in some ways got that like that as far as things like, I don't know, who should I compare her to? Some people have said the easy comparison for her because of her cantankerousness, her shit talking, her competitive spirit is Kyle Lowry. She's going to have a spirit for this tempo team like Kyle Lowry did for the Raptors. That she's going to be that kind of person as a leader. That she kind of echoes some Kyle Lowry-esque kind of stuff. I'm here for it. I am here for it. In some ways, I don't care about being liked around this league. And in Marina Mabry, she talks a lot of shit. Let's just put it that way. She makes shots and she talks directly at her opponents, but she's good enough to do that. In some ways, I'm like, you know what? Don't do that. You're just going to poke the bear and the other teams are going to come around and get you. But no, Marina's like that. She can do this shit and get away with it. So be ready for this, Tempo fans. We've got a badass on our team. They call her Money Mabry. They call her Chef Mabry. They call her Chef Mabry. And that, you know why they call her Chef? Who they call Chef in the NBA? Steph Curry. Chef Curry. Well, why is Marina Chef Mabry Chef? Because she's bombing logo threes just like Steph does. Because she's hitting threes and going off crazy like Steph does. So it's like I can make a comparison of Kyle Lowry to Marina Mabry, but in some ways, should I be making the comparison of Steph Curry to Marina Mabry? Because seriously, there may be a combination of that. Let's just say, okay, think of Steph Curry, but mix it up with the asshole mentality, bulldog mentality of Kyle Lowry. That's what you get when you get Marina Mabry. That's insane shit. Does that sound like a player y'all want to root for? Somebody's going to be coming out there bombing threes and blowing it up and doing all kinds of hand gestures and just saying, yeah, I fucking made that in your face, bitch. There's going to be that kind of shit from her. This is why people hate her. It's because she talks mad shit. And I'm here for it. I don't care if anybody likes us in this league. If Marina Mabry is going to be our franchise player, our core player, because she's the unrestricted free agent that we signed, well, that's going to be our identity. In some way, she's going to be a part of our identity. And she's going to be a wild one. Let's just put it that way. She's an emotional person. She's an emotional person. Like, there's games where she crashes out. You know, I said yesterday, I'd crash out today if the Grizzlies beat the Raptors last night on this channel. Instead, I'm crashing out for Marina today because she's badass. Like, she crashes out. And, well, she had to get a crash out jar because she crashed out so much and she wanted to stop doing it because she felt like maybe it's taken away from the team. Getting emotional on the court, getting fiery, getting into it with people because that's how she is, honestly. Well, she made a jar that she had to put money into every time she crashed out in a WNBA game. That's hilarious to me. That is hilarious to me that she has a crash out jar. Marina Crash Out Mabry. Marina Chef Mabry. Yeah, it's like that. The other thing about Marina that's interesting is she's in a relationship with one of her former teammates on the Sun. Yeah, one of her teammates on the Kinetic Sun is her girlfriend. And well, Marina has not shown any signs of accepting the Toronto Tempo expansion draft pick. I went and checked all their Instagrams. I went through all their pictures, all their reels. I watched all their highlights. I saw their lives, all 11 of the Toronto Tempo women. And Marina Mabry is all quiet on the Western Front, has not acknowledged the expansion draft decision yesterday to take her. And this may be strategic for a couple reasons. It may be strategic for a couple reasons. Julie Alamon posted it. Niara Sabali posted it, saying, all right, let's get to work. We're coming to Toronto. But Marina didn't post nothing yet. I think it's because in some ways she might have to make a tough breakup because, what is it? What is it? Love or money, Marina Mabry? Is it love or money? It's like a movie. It's like, oh, I got to choose love or money because she is an unrestricted free agent. And if the Tempo, which they're going to do this, I know they will, don't core her, she can still walk and go to any team, just like Bridget Carleton. So it's the same exact situation with Marina Mabry and Bridget Carleton. Now, would either the Tempo or the Fire select these women as their UFAs if they didn't have a good feeling that they were going to core them and make them big money players on their new expansion teams? Would they have done this? No. So they've called Marina. They talked to her. She knows she's going to get paid. And every intention, Monica Wright-Rogers and Eli Horowitz are going to core her, and she's going to be paid in the new salary cap structure of the CBA for the WNBA more money than she's made in the WNBA. Now, that's the thing. She's going to get a lot of money. She's going to play in another country, and her girlfriend's still on the Connecticut Sun. It's tough. How's that going to work? Y'all breaking up? Are y'all going to be able to long-distance relationship? Is there going to be some weird way where you're going to get in the ear of Monica Wright-Rogers and the Toronto Tempo and say, hey, can you get my girlfriend? Can you bring her up here too? Please, somehow, some way. I don't know. We'll have to see. It really is love or money for Marina Mabry right now. For the love of money or for love? It's for money because Tempo is going to tell you, yeah, you're not going to be able to go anywhere. We're coring you. And you are going to be the first franchise face of the Toronto Tempo, Marina Mabry. Yeah, she's something, man. I like her attitude. She reminds me of an ex-girlfriend of mine. I'm not going to lie. I dated a woman like her that it looked a lot like her, actually, that had a lot of the same kind of stylistic choices as her, too. It's in some ways, I like her brashness. I like that she's a villain. I like that she's a Lambeer in the WNBA. In some ways, I could say that she's on the scale of Caitlin Clark. That, some people say, oh, you like Caitlin Clark? Yeah, you know what? The deep cut, the cult classic, the one that you should like is Marina Mabry. Yeah, she's like that. She's like that, Chef Mabry. She's such a chef. She's got a cooking show even, guys. She's done cooking shows. And in some ways, it's funny. I watched her cooking show yesterday, and she said, when I cook in the kitchen, it's chaotic. I don't even know what I'm going to do. I'm just in here cooking. I'm throwing stuff together. I'm making a cake. And that's exactly how I play on the court, too. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm literally out there just playing and going through the motions and doing what I do instinctually. Yeah, this is a player we want on this team. I'm telling you right now, she's got scoring acumen. And the thing about it is she's going to be coming from a team where she was the second leading scorer on the Sun to a team where she's going to get all the opportunities in the world. And she's going to get some buckets. Trust me. She's going to score a lot of points. She's going to be a fan favorite. And people are going to love Marina Mabry because she's like that. And she's a little bit of a lightning rod. But it's that kind of person like Dylan Brooks. You love to have them on your team, and you hate playing against them. You hate playing against them. So she's going to set a tone. I'm telling y'all right now, Marina Mabry. Oh, yeah, she's going to set a tone for our team. And it's all looking like the front office of the Tempo are going to very much make her our first franchise face. Yeah, unless something screwy or weird happens. That was kind of the choice. It's like, all right, y'all are going to take Bridget. We're not going to UFA her. Well, we'll go ahead and get the most talented player that's a UFA that's available. Because that's in some ways, that's the whole argument right now. It's like, well, we didn't get Bridget, the Canadian connection, the ideal situation that we wanted because we want to fulfill her dream and have Canadian content on our team. But realists and WNBA people, they're like, you know what? That's not the better move, though. That's you're just doing that because it's national pride and that stuff. No, Marina Mabry's a way better player than Bridget Carlton, and you should be very happy to have her instead. I mean, that's what I'm hearing in the last 24 hours about the selection of Marina Mabry. That's right. That's right. Fiercely saying lots of college talent. I watched the UConn versus South Carolina game yesterday. It was real good and dramatic. But my main take is that there is great talent coming to the WNBA. That's what Monica and Eli said yesterday, that they feel very strongly about this draft coming up. And on the 13th, they'll pick the first ever entry draft pick for the Toronto Tempo at the 6th pick of the draft. And that 6th pick is going to look better than the 7th pick for the Portland Fire because that's the choice we made. That is what we wanted. We wanted that advantage. And that makes sense. A regular draft is way more important than an expansion draft because in a regular draft, you can get somebody on the promise of them possibly being a very, very above average player that grows into something else. Expansion draft, you're picking from players that have already been in the league and kind of already tested or shown themselves, unless you do some of the strategies that the Tempo employed yesterday that I'm going to talk about soon. But yeah, most of the time you're picking known entities, and you're going to get the college level of like Cooper Flagg or Con Knipple or Colin Murray-Boyles. You want that jump tick from a young player coming out of college, you got to get that through the entry draft, not through the expansion draft. Expansion draft will get you Carlos Rogers or not Carlos Rogers, but Oliver Miller and John Sally and people like that. You know, that's what I'm saying. That's why it's sound, the decision they made. And like Eli said, they got 3 advantages instead of just 1. You want to pick first and steal Bridget Carlton? Okay, that's your one advantage. Shots fired. Okay, Portland, you got a feud for doing that. But we got 3 advantages otherwise. Waiver wire priority and the first pick in the 2nd round of the expansion draft, along with the first pick in the entry draft. And that's some ways that sound logic. And the way they decided that. That's sound logic. Neil's saying this, hey, you can go skiing in Utah, and if all else fails, go to dinner with the Mormons. Yes, Utah. What if you don't like skiing? What if it's not even like good ski season because the global warming melted all the snow and you can't do any skiing all of a sudden? Listen, Memphis has got barbecue. Memphis has got great bars that Jack Armstrong's sad when he doesn't get to go to the trip on Memphis because it's a Sportsnet game instead of TSN. There's good things about Memphis. Let's not kick Memphis while it's down. I mean, it is a city that's in trouble more ways than one as far as possibly losing the Grizzlies and then stupid-ass Elon and his data center polluting and raising their electric prices and all kinds of issues with that. There's some major problems with that city. And in some ways, it's a canary in the coal mine showing the economic problems that are coming towards the United States in the near future. The U.S. is lost as a leader in this world. Nobody trusts that country anymore. You know, European countries paid U.S. companies to build arms for them, and Trump has just stolen the money and the weapons. Now nobody's going to want to do business with the U.S. for a long, long time going forward. So, yeah, it's all messed up. And Memphis is in some ways symbolizing the decay of the United States. That's what it is right there. Yeah, Trevor's saying Embiid doesn't play back-to-back games. Yeah, he had to play last night against Gobert, but he won't play tonight against Duran. Interesting. Isaac's got me on blast. That's right. Me and Mo and Scotty and the Raptor. I love it. Good to see you, Isaac Campbell, holding it down in the nation's capital of Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. That's right. Gigi's saying this. It's our good game, Mr. G. Tempo filled with champs from the WNBA and EuroLeague winners too that play in the WNBA. Yes, and we'll keep moving. This will be my cue every time you guys bring up something. We've gone over Marina Mabry, and I hope that you guys understand a bit more about her from that. You know, there's connections there. All right, let's see. The next player I'm going to talk about is Aaliyah Nye. Aaliyah Nye is a champion, just like G just said. In fact, she won the championship last year on the Las Vegas Aces. She was a rookie for the Aces last year. And Aces fans are pissed that they didn't protect her. In some ways, they're like, whoa, how did y'all get our good young swing rookie? She's a slasher. She's a wing, and she's pretty good. She's from Michigan. She is American. But this is the interesting thing. She's indigenous, guys. She belongs to a tribe in the state of Michigan. And she will have a whole aspect to her on this tempo team that the Toronto Tempo really want to embrace. Because in some ways, Toronto Tempo are a very progressive organization led by Teresa Resch. She had the same energy behind her in the Toronto Raptors organization, a lot of social justice warrior, social causes that were promoted. There's a reason why we had the Black Lives Matter bus in Tampa during the bubble. There's a reason why, we've done so many things in the Raptors history in the We the North era that is politically charged and aware. It's gone away, partly because Teresa's gone and Masai's gone now. And Ed Rogers is not about that. He's about this and making money and having sponsorship deals with WWE and Buffalo Bills and shit like that, rather than encouraging women in sports or doing social justice kind of things. Well, we know the Tempo is very, very much keyed in on indigenous issues and nationwide across Canada. So Aaliyah Nye is a perfect player to be playing for us as an indigenous woman who belongs to a tribe in Michigan. Now, she was a rookie last year, and in some ways, she's shown signs that she's happy to be on the Tempo, but she was very comfortable being on the Aces, and she was a very heralded rookie. Her game to me is a mix of three-point shooting from the outside with the slasher mentality of being able to go to the basket and get baskets, putting the ball on the floor. And she's going to be one of the women from yesterday's draft that's going to be one of our dead-eye three-point shooters. She did very, very good as a rookie, contributing to the Aces championship last year. So she's already a champion. She's got that pedigree, just like Sabali. So you got Sabali, you got Nye, and both of them are WNBA champions already. And that's what G's talking about. You got Sandy with 2 championships. You got Monica with 2 championships. You got championships. Olaf's got championships. So it's like, we got a lot of champions and winners and people that have won all around the world internationally and in the WNBA already that are on the Toronto Tempo roster. And Aaliyah Nye is one of them. Aaliyah Nye is one of them. Yeah, she was the 13th overall pick in the draft last year. So it's like, that's value right there. And the Aces couldn't protect everybody. And so they let her go. And that's to the benefit of the Toronto Tempo. That's right. That's right. Aaliyah Nye. G's also saying this. The WNBA is definitely lacking in playmaking from what I noticed the last 2 years of watching. There are maybe a handful like Gray, Clark, and Julie that really focus on playmaking. Great pick. Yeah. Like my comparison to Damon Stoudemire is kind of like, this is the very first Toronto Tempo player, and that's a true point guard. That's a true point guard. They're both 5'10", too. They're the same height. Damon's the same height as Julie, which is awesome. Speaking of height, I noticed out of the 11 women picked by the Tempo yesterday, 7 of the 11 are over 6 feet tall. So we really did add a lot of size with this roster sneakily. We've got a couple of centers and we've got some really good sizable forwards, and some of them are good defenders. So there's good defense on our team. That's one of the knocks that I'm hearing between the 2 expansion teams yesterday, is that the Portland Fire did not do a good job of getting defensive size. And we did. So that's an area that we covered, but the other team didn't cover so well, is what I'm hearing early out. That's right. Yeah, let's keep going with the selections. And it looks like I'm getting a nice lead in for one of my next players. Since you're going to bring her up, we'll go ahead and talk about her. But first, let me just do Lexi real quick. All right. Cause I want to do them in the order they were picked, but G's about to talk about one of them. So Lexi Held is from Kentucky, and she was a rookie last year for the Phoenix Mercury. The Phoenix Mercury got to the finals against the Las Vegas Aces, right? So I found this really interesting that the Toronto Tempo took 2 Liberty players and 2 Mercury players. And in some ways, that's where Sandy won her championships. She won in the Liberty and she won the Mercury. And maybe she just trusts their organizations and who they get. Obviously, it makes sense why she got Sabali. And the other Liberty player, well, we'll talk about her in a little bit. But the 2 players they got from the Mercury were both rookies last year. And they're tight. They're already good friends. In fact, that'll be helpful to Lexi Held and Kitty that they have good friends together on the tempo if they both make the team. Now, the thing about Lexi Held that's interesting is she's one of the most up and coming best 3-point shooters in the WNBA. She got pegged that last year. She had a little bit of an injury time where she missed some time on the court, but when she was available, she was a key player in helping the Mercury get to the WNBA finals with her 3-point shooting. So that's an interesting thing. She has a slight build and she's really kind of a shooting guard, but she's a dead eye. And that's the thing. We've got a couple of players. Like, I guess she would be the comparison's Grady Dick as far as like she's a dead eye 3-point shooter and she'll hit it. So yeah, she's interesting. She's very happy about being on the tempo. She's posted it and said, God is great. And this is the next chapter. A little personal note about Lexi Held is that her boyfriend proposed to her last December, and she just recently got engaged to get married. So yeah, she's an interesting player from Kentucky. And well, I think she's ready to go international and come to Toronto. Of course, she's played in other places around the world already. So she's not like some xenophobic, closed-minded American. She plays for a team in Hungary also in the offseason. So she's a little bit more international and globally than maybe the average Kentuckian. Let's just put it that way. But Lexi's going to be a great 3-point shooter for the tempo. And some people are saying, like, they're saying that the couple of players that they're saying we really did well on are Alamon, Mabry, and Held. Some people are really, really big on Lexi Held and the possibilities of what she does with her 3-point shooting. So this is good. This is good. All right, let's see. G's brought up the next person. Marc Gasol follows Conde. She plays for Spain. It's a very, very interesting group. Yeah, all right. Let's talk about Maria Conde, who I have stuff in common with, and so does Jose Calderon. Maria Conde is on the Spanish national team. She's probably the best women's player on the Spanish national team. Because of that, she has very close ties to Marc Gasol, Pau Gasol, Juancho Hernan Gomez, Vili Gomez, Hernan Gomez, and Jose Calderon. Because the Spanish national team family is very tight. Very, very, very tight. Now, Maria is interesting. Maria is one of these players that's never played in the WNBA. She's an unknown. And what Eli said in the press conference yesterday is that Monica and Eli went to Europe last December for a few weeks, and they really scouted European players for this draft. And well, the thing about Maria is she's had the ability to be in the WNBA for years, but she has not chosen to yet. She's had actually her draft rights were originally, I believe, with the Fever or something like that. I want to say it was the Fever. Let me see. Hang on. Oh, crap. Did I screw that up? All right, hang on. Let me do it this way real quick. Now, like I said, she went to Florida State, but she went to Florida State like Scotty and I, right? She's a Seminole, just like Florida State. But she went to Florida State and played for them in like 2015 to 2017. So that's like way long time ago. And she was drafted by the Chicago Sky originally, but then the Valkyries last year selected her in the expansion draft, and they had her rights last year. Well, we've gone ahead and stolen the rights from the Valkyries for her for here. And you know who Maria Conde smacks of? She smacks of Jose and Jorge Garboza. She's got that kind of energy. So the Eli says that they think that Maria Conde is the best European player that has not come to the WNBA yet. That's an interesting kind of thing to play on. You know, I love the international flavor of what we did yesterday. It goes along with the history of the Raptors, and it goes along with the fact that we're the only international team in the WNBA. You know, in some ways, you know, American teams can be kind of like short-sighted with global scouting, but the tempo and the Raptors are not like that. We go out and we look all around the world and we find really good international players. And international players love to play in Toronto because of our diversity of our city and the fact that you can find an enclave in the city of Toronto for every nation around the world. So it's like all the internationalness of the women they selected yesterday. Well, it'll be rewarded in Toronto because they'll have communities from their home countries that will very, very strongly support them. Very much. Now, Maria's interesting. Maria's man, she's tough. Like in some ways, there's a real flavor to the women that they chose yesterday. And it's gritty, tough kind of women that are like they're very physical, but they're also very high IQ, and they're also just ultimate competitors. When I watched Maria Conde's highlights yesterday, I saw a wing. She's actually forward sized, right? She's not really a guard. She's a forward. It was 6'1", but even as a forward, she led her team last year in assists, and she loves behind the back passes. It's like she does these Arita Sabonis kind of bounce behind the back passes that are so on point. So you basically got like a point forward in Maria Conde. You add in some really good defense and you add in a 3-point shot too, and that's what you got. And to me, because she's 29 years old and she's never actually played in the WNBA, she's going to be like Jose. She's going to show up just like Calderon did for the Raptors, and she could have an immediate impact for the tempo this year as one of the starters, as one of the main rotation people. And like I said, her playmaking as a forward out there can add dimensions for the tempo that are similar to what the Raptors do with Scotty and RJ. So I like Maria Conde a lot, not just because she's a Florida State Seminole, but also because she's Spanish and that whole Spanish national team family is behind her and loves her. And there's a lot of people in that family that can talk to her about being on Toronto in the WNBA. Marc Gasol, Jose, Juancho. Yeah. Yeah. She's a fantastic pickup. She really is. And she's unknown. And that's the thing. Because she hasn't played in the WNBA, there's a whole sky's the limit kind of thing as far as her impact as a rookie coming in. Now, the question is she going to come or not? That's the thing. Now, she did react to getting drafted by the Tempo yesterday, and it was a positive reaction. Now, is there something that we don't know? Is Coach Brondello and Coach GM Wright Rogers on the phone with her saying, yeah, come on in, Maria. We want you to debut as a rookie for the Tempo in their first year. It could very well be she's showing up for the first time. But if she doesn't, and it's the same thing that she's doing all along, I'm just staying international, I'm not coming over, it's still smart for the Tempo to have her rights. Because some of these players that we drafted yesterday may not play for us, and it may be that they're stashed. And it's just to have their rights, kind of like the Valkyries had her rights last year. So we'll have to see. There are signs pointing to Maria Conde wanting to come and play in the WNBA finally. So this is a very, very interesting situation with her. And like I said, she's got great achievements playing for the national team for Spain in Eurobasket. And, she's a winner too. She's a winner. She's that kind of player that is just kind of a hard worker. In some ways, she has parallels to Jorge Garboza and the way he impacted the Raptors when he played for us. And then she's got a similar path like Jorge and Jose Calderon, Spanish and delayed to come to the league, and they're a bit more seasoned and mature as a player, and could have an immediate impact, just like Calderon did for the Toronto Raptors. So yeah, it's a very interesting player, Maria Conde. Very, very interesting. G's saying this about Marina Mabry is a player you hate playing against. Yeah, I said this earlier. Yeah, she's a bit dirty and crashes out, but at least the Tempo will start out tough and with an enforcer. She can also score like crazy. Yeah, that's the thing. I wouldn't like her if she couldn't back it up. She wants to have that swagger. She wants to be like that on the court. Well, she can back it up. So she's got the ability to write the checks because she can back it up the way she plays. I like that. In some ways, like I said, she's polarizing. There's a reputation around the league already, and that reputation is similar to Dylan Brooks's in the NBA. And in some ways, I think we're all here for it because you love a passionate player. She's been misunderstood in the past. People have said, oh, she's just a jerk. She's a goon. She's done interviews in recent years and said, I just really care about competing. I'm passionate about playing. That's what it is. That's what it is. She's not just a jerk. No, she really cares about winning. She's a competitor. And that's why this manifests like this. Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. Fiercely saying this, Marina Mabrey is a dirty player, but the type you want on your team as she brings grit and competitiveness. Her nickname is the crash out queen. She's feisty and complains a lot to the refs. Laugh out loud. Yeah. Yeah. She's got a reputation that precedes her, but in some ways, I'm here for it. Go on, Diva. Do your Diva life and be your badass self. I'm totally like that. We're going to make your brother admit that you're better than him by the time you're through with the Toronto Tempo. That's right. We're going to make your brother admit it. We're going to hold him down and make him admit it. We say, shut up. You're not the best Mabrey. No, you're not. It's Marina. It's Marina. That's right. We're going to make him say that. That's right. G saying fiercely, we just said the same thing. And I kind of said the same thing too before in the chat also. It's like that. Yeah. Fiercely saying very good 3-point shooter, especially from a distance like Caitlin Clark. On the Unrivaled League, she was with the Lunar Owls, who had the worst record, but a force and a scoring machine. Yeah, amazing. 47 points in that format of the 3-on-3 women's league. Yeah, amazing. And that's the highest point total anybody scored in that league. So the Tempo have got the biggest score ever in the history of the Unrivaled League in a single game. And there's a lot of good players in that league. You'd think that it's like, wow, that's an accomplishment if they're playing all the best WNBA players in the Unrivaled League and the way they do it, right? That's an accomplishment. 47 just a couple months ago in the Unrivaled League. That's right. That's right. Fiercey's laughing at G. Let's see. Fiercey saying Bridget Carlton has started on all Minnesota Lynx games last season. She'll also be a starter with the Fire. I've always because we played WNBA fantasy. I've never thought she was a viable fantasy player because she just doesn't add enough, and she'd be on the waiver wire. And we see oh, Bridget's not doing anything there. But the aspect of Carlton's game is her defensive side that is not in the stats. She may not be a totally good WNBA fantasy player, but she's a fantastic WNBA player because of the defensive energy that she garners and what she does. I don't want to diss her. In some ways, there's still a weird way it could be circled back to where she does end up being on the Tempo after all. But that would mean Portland's really inept and stupid, and they didn't really plan well to core her. And that all of a sudden she does come back and be on our team. No, I think she's going to be on the Portland Fire, and she's going to be their first franchise face, just like Marina Mabrey's going to be for us. Yeah, there ain't nothing wrong with that. That's right. Yeah. Fiercely saying I'd be surprised if she's not on their team. Yeah, that's where the money is. That's the whole thing. It's the same thing with Mabrey. Mabrey's not too thrilled about being on the Tempo. She could kind of be like, nah, I don't want to do this unless Monica says, no, we're coring you. You're our core. And we have rights to you. And that's the only way they do this. In some ways, that's the smart thing to do because it seems like Marina Mabrey's that kind of level of talent that maybe she's a little bit got a bad reputation and people don't covet her or keep her on their team like they should. She's a journey woman. She's been on a few teams so far in her career that maybe it's they value me. They care about me. They're going to give me a huge amount of money and they're going to core me as the main player and the franchise face of this brand new team. Actually, this is going to be fun. And look, they put a bunch of women around me that share similar competitive, fierce values like I do. And I could get behind playing with Nina Milic and Maria Conde. Oh, yeah. Because they in some ways play a very hard-nosed, physical kind of game like I do. That's part of it right there. That's part of it right there. Let's see. Who else we got to talk about from the team? We'll talk about the Russian, Masha, who was on Minnesota Lynx last year, Maria Klendikova. Yeah, she is 27 years old. She's one of the younger ones. Like I said, there's a group of these women that are all the same age. They're all 29. And there's a 30-year-old and a 31-year-old. And then there's the youngest player is 23, and that's Nye. the rookie from the Aces last year, and Sabali's younger too. And then you got Masha, who's 27, who's just a little bit younger than the 29-year-old group. There's like 5 of them that are 29. It's really interesting. They're all around the same age. Maria is from Moscow. She's a Russian player, and she plays big power forward. And the thing about her game is she's long armed. She has a really good wingspan. So she's another one of these defensive kind of players besides Sabali. Is you can put Sabali out there at center, put Masha at power forward, and she's going to have a presence of physicality and rebounding. She's also not a bad three-point shooter. She can bomb a three every once in a while from out there. And, well, she had pretty good quality minutes for the Lynx last year, a team that was one of the best teams in the league. So it's like, look, we got Sandy's old team, the Liberty, the Mercury, 2 very high-performing teams in the last couple of years, and then the Lynx we're taking players from. And that makes more sense. And somebody noticed that the Portland Fire were selecting from the lottery teams in the WNBA, and we were picking from the top teams as far as our expansion selections. So that's in some ways shows that the Tempo want to win now, and maybe the Portland Fire were deferring to projects and lottery stuff and building a young core that's not that good and having prospects. I think that that's smart because if you think about it, the Tempo are the first Canadian team and they're the first international team for the WNBA. There is some pressure on the team to be successful right away so that market opens up and gets enthusiasm. They don't want the Tempo to be absolute dog shit because it could turn out like the Vancouver Grizzlies. So there is an interest by the WNBA as a whole, as a marketing company, but also, for our team, what is the philosophy? Are we doing Brendan Malone or Isaiah Thomas here? Isaiah wanted to go tank and get high draft picks, and Brendan wanted to win right away. Well, Sandy is a coach of a lustrous career. She's not trying to lose. It'll make her look bad if she comes to Toronto and we tank out to try and get somebody next year like Juju Watkins. That don't make no sense. So we're going to try and win right away and compete. In some ways, the whole idea of tanking, just forget about it, Tempo Nation. Let's be clean slate right from the start and never, ever have that mentality or that strategy ever employed by this franchise ever going forward. Because in some ways, tanking is stupid. And in some ways, if you're good in your front office, like the Raptors are with Bobby Webster and Masai before, with what's looking like so far with Wright Rogers and Horowitz, you don't need a tank to get good talent. You're going to have the 6th pick in the draft this year and let the chips fall as they may after our season this year. We'll get what we deserve in the draft next year too. But we don't want to steer our team through losing and bad habits just to try and pick up Juju Watkins. That don't fucking make no sense. That's stupid as fuck. You don't want to do that. So the way they built the team yesterday with the expansion draft shows that they're not trying to lose this year because they got good quality players that are already been proven on teams that have been winning last year, like Masha from the Minnesota Lynx, who has very long arms and is a very defensive, physical player. And she's pretty quick to get around. So she's a defensive power forward kind of player that's good for some threes here and there. Her husband have a toddler son who's a little blonde kid. And they're doing a lot of cool touristy kind of stuff. So that's Masha. She's very Russian. Let's just put it that way. She's very, very Russian. And she was originally a first-round pick, 11th pick by the Los Angeles Sparks. So she has experience in this league, 74 games played over her career so far. So, yeah, she's an interesting one. Maria Klindakova. Interesting one for sure. Yeah. Yeah, let's see. Smooth saying this, Reggie, good morning to you. Is Kia Nurse a free agent? If so, makes sense for Toronto. She is a free agent. And Monica Wright Rogers dropped hints yesterday that we will still try and get our Canadian. Some of the fans are like, well, let's not just get a Canadian just to get a Canadian. We shouldn't do that. We should optimize our team to be the best team it is. Some people that say that kind of stuff, I don't feel like they're actually Canadians. They're just haters. Like the people that are like mad that people wanted Bridget Carlton and are whining about it. And then they were like, why did you care? That wasn't the right strategy and stuff. I can see both sides. But understand this, anybody who poo-poos the importance of having a Canadian player on the Canadian WNBA team, you're stupid. It is important. We should have a Canadian on our team right from the start and going forward, and it will probably be Kia Nurse. Monica Wright Rogers said yesterday, yeah, we've already reached out and we've got our free agents on our radar. And well, it's gonna, when they say green light go, this is WNBA free agency, which they haven't totally disclosed when that's gonna be opened up because they have to ratify the CBA agreement that they just figured out and signed. They have to ratify it still. And then that's just gonna floodgates gonna open. And it's going to happen all around the league because there's like over 100 free agents that got to be plucked up in a very short period of time. And nobody's going to be wasting any time because they're going to want these people into training camp and getting ready for the season. So we're going to see a floodgate of this happen when they open it up finally. And I fully expect the Kia Nurse is going to be one of the first announcements going to the Toronto Tempo. I fully expect that. It just makes sense. It just makes so much sense. Echo Beach is back. Good to see Echo Beach back in the chat. I missed your last question the other day. I am headquartered in the Greater Toronto area. I'll just call it that. I won't pinpoint exactly where I live because in some ways that's not safe to do on YouTube. But I will say that I live in Toronto, and I've historically lived around the Greater Toronto area, mostly in downtown. I don't live in downtown Toronto now, but I do live in Ontario. I can say that. I will say that, yeah. But good to see you back, Echo. Colin Murray-Boyles is so good. Hopefully he has a long career here. I do too. I hope this too. When he first came earlier this season, I had a premonition. Sometimes I have premonitions. I'm a seer. I have foresight. And my premonition about Colin was that we're going to win a championship with him. That was something I said last year during summer league or something, I think, when I was first seeing his player type and the idea of how he melds with Scotty and the powerfulness of Scotty Barnes standing next to Colin Murray-Boyles on a Raptors court. There's a championship there and that synergy between Colin Murray-Boyles and Scotty Barnes. It's just he's got to stay here. He can't get stupid and be like, oh, I want to go play for the Celtics or I want to go do this instead. He's got to want to stay here, and we've got to invest in him too, and we got to keep him. Rogers can't cheap out. They're going to have to pay him, and they're going to have to want to value him and keep him. I know Bobby Webster will because he's that kind of X factor, like Echo Beach is saying. There's just so much to him that you get on defense and rebounding that is so good to have in the NBA. And those quick hands and that quick elevator up, the slam. Yeah, and there's all kinds of ideas about how his offensive game could develop more and more over the years that could flesh him out to even more value. So, yeah, I completely agree with Echo Beach here that Colin's a keeper. We got to keep him in the fold, and I just hope that he loves Toronto as much as we love him. That's what I would say about him right there. Good to see you back, man. And, yeah, I hope that you're finding value in the Toronto Tempo stuff I'm talking about today, too. It's the very beginning of an awesome journey. We're just starting. That's right. Fiercely saying Glorilla is from Memphis. That's why they love her there. She's a great female rapper. Okay, that makes sense then. That makes sense. She's a hometown hero and from the city. That makes total sense. That makes sense. Smooth saying this. Sandro has to have a good game tomorrow. He's been a non-factor against good teams. The bench in general has been bad against good teams. So tomorrow's huge. Yeah, I mean, I want all of them to have a good game tomorrow. The thing about the Celtics right now is they just added Jason Tatum to the mix after being out for most of the season. In some ways, that can be a problem. Like, that can be kind of like, okay, this isn't as smooth all of a sudden because we just added such a huge piece and he's so important that we want to try and integrate him. But we've kind of already been doing things with our system all year in a certain way, and we in that pattern. It's a very tough thing to balance, reintegrating Jason Tatum into the Celtics lineup like they've been doing recently. Yeah, who knows? Maybe there's some dysfunction that can come from that tomorrow, and that messes up the Celtics, and somehow the Raptors beat them. That could happen. Who knows? Maybe I just spoke it into existence. Yeah, bench help would be awesome. Our bench was awesome yesterday against a young Grizzlies team, but that's not hard to do. And yeah, this is something we need to do better in the big games against teams like the Knicks and the Celtics. Bench production. For sure. Reggie's on point here. Bryce is in the house, and Bryce probably had the time of his life last night going to Raptors game and seeing them rout the Memphis Grizzlies. Good morning, Lex and Raptor Freaks. Good morning to you, Bryce. Do you know Lexi Held? Do you know about her? She's from Kentucky. She's on Toronto Tempo. Bryce, I hope you had a fantastic time last night. And if you want to share anything about your experience going to the Raptors game at FedEx Forum yesterday, please give us some details about being in the arena for that game last night. That was fun. It's fun. Reggie's saying, still don't see Mobo as being anything other than 11th or 12th guy. Maybe I'm wrong. I just don't see it, Lex. I'm okay with that. What did you want? What did you want? I'm fine with this. I didn't say that he was going to become any more than that, did I? No, I never said that at any point. What I said about Mobo is he's an NBA player and he's valuable. It doesn't matter if he ever becomes a starter. It doesn't matter if he ever averages 20 points per game. It doesn't matter if any of that stuff. That's the thing that most young fans, and I'm not saying you, Reggie, the folly of them is they think every player has to develop into becoming Steph Curry or they're a failure. It's stupid. Everybody's got their own ceilings. Everybody's got their own carved out roles. In some ways, you could be like Chris Boucher and be who you are and have a long career like he did and be successful. But do you have to be any more than that? No. Jonathan Mobo, his role is fine. And what he does is fine. And saying something like this, I don't see him anything more than 11, 12 guys. Well, that's all he was ever supposed to be in the first place. What were you expecting? That's the whole thing. I don't get. In some ways, it's nephew kind of mentality that everybody's supposed to become an all-star and that everybody has a growth ceiling to that. That's bullshit. That's stupid. Every player's got a certain limit of their ability, and they're going to get to that certain point, and either they go out of the league or they find a niche and they survive in the league because of that. Jonathan has got a niche. Trust me, he's fine. He's Scotty's best friend. He's a quality defender, but he's never going to be more than that. You're right. But was he ever supposed to be? And why does everybody have this expectation for him to be that? Is this what feeds Reddit and other places for dissing Jonathan Mobo? Oh, he sucks. He sucks. Because he's on the NBA? Because he plays in the NBA? He doesn't suck. It's just that you expect him to be a starter or you expect him to be above what he is already? Well, you're the one who's an idiot for thinking that he's going to be more than what he's supposed to be. I'm not saying you're an idiot, Smooth. I'm just saying that this what you just said is kind of like, okay, what was he supposed to be in the first place? He's the first pick in a second round. There's different levels of ceilings and what they're going to be. And there's nothing wrong with Jonathan being exactly what you said. And that's it for the rest of his career. If he's in the NBA for 10 years and he makes millions of dollars and he rides the bench most of his career, is that a big deal? Especially when he's in some ways there to help our franchise player be happier. You know, it's like, what is this? You know, what is this? There's a place for those guys. So Mobo will have an NBA job. Exactly. See, that's the right follow-up right there. Is that, you know, he's made the league. He's a quality defender in the NBA. He's in some ways a mini Scotty that can do Scotty stuff on a smaller level. There's nothing wrong with Jonathan's career. He's being very successful. He's been very teachable. He's gotten better and better as he's been on the Raptors over the last 2 years. It's just people that don't watch 905 wouldn't see it and understand it. If you don't watch the Raptors 905, then you have no idea what Jonathan Mobo has been doing this season. You have to watch that team too. That's right. Yeah. I like that you came back with the second part of your statement. Because seriously, everybody started judging everybody and was like, whoa, they're not going to be an all-star. They're not going to average 20 points. They're a failure. You make that league, you're a success. You make the NBA, you're a success. You did it, Marquise Noel. You played one game in the NBA. You made your NBA dream. You did better than 99% of the world out there. Yeah. Yeah, that's how I look at it right there. Trevor J saying Michael Grange between AJ and Martin might get considered over the summer, but it's looking more like AJ will get it. Well, in some ways, AJ and Elijah are not really competing for the same thing. They may be two ways, and in our mind, it's easy to group them together and say, oh, they're competing to get their contract converted. But they're not, because they're not on the same timeline. They're nowhere near the same timeline. Elijah Martin's just about to complete his rookie season as a two-way, and AJ Lawson's been around the league for 5 years. So it's kind of like, look, The polish and the experience of AJ Lawson has an advantage over Elijah Martin. In some ways, AJ Lawson's more an NBA size player than Elijah Martin because of his height and in some ways his speed. So yeah, comparing the two of them and who's a race to get converted to a full contract is stupid. It's a stupid thing because it's not fair to Elijah, first of all. And Lawson's been long overdue for this. He's been long overdue for this. If they don't do it this year and they don't put him on the playoff roster, I think that's a mistake. I think that they should convert him before the end of the season so that he can play in the postseason for the Raptors. Because I think that he's valuable. And especially in the way he's been playing in the last 2 weeks, AJ Lawson should be on the Raptors playoff team. And two ways don't play on the playoff team. So they have to convert AJ if they want to utilize him in the postseason. So Elijah's not ready. You could have converted Elijah and he'll go out there and miss shots, and he's just too green. He's got to learn more about the NBA and get more years under his belt. I really do feel like Elijah Martin needs another whole year of 905 for sure next year. And, AJ's more ready to go. I mean, he played in the finals against the Celtics for the Mavericks. So he has playoff pressure experience. Yeah, Nako's bringing up Colin Murray-Boyles a lot here. Yeah, you guys are big on Colin this morning. And I get it. I get it. The man's got great hands. He's got springs in his feet. And he's got an uncanny strength for his body frame. That's Charles Barkley. That's Charles Barkley once again. Trevor J saying Markelle Fultz has not signed back to another 10-day. Yeah, they did. They passed on him. I knew they would. They fulfilled their promise to him. Come play for 905 a little bit. We'll give you a 10-day tryout with the Raptors. You can play a couple games for us. But yeah, it didn't go anywhere. In some ways, Fultz is a very talented basketball player, but in some ways, he didn't really fit the NBA the whole entire time he was around it, which is weird, which is very weird. In some ways, Jonathan Mobo fits the NBA better than Markelle Fultz. That's interesting, isn't that? They weren't in no hurry to fill that spot either. No, they weren't. Let's go see if there's breaking news. Maybe they did fill that spot while I've been on the air. I don't know. We'll have to see here. No, not really. They don't have any breaking news. No filled in open roster spot. They just saving that money. That's what they're doing. Smooth Sam Mobo should learn from Draymond Green. He could train with him in the offseason. I don't think that's a good idea at all. Fuck that. No, he can't get away with what Draymond does. To be able to do what Draymond does, you have to have a special card from the NBA. And that's rare. They don't want to give Draymond cards to everybody. Draymond is a special case. In some ways, he was a genius the way he built that from his career in Golden State and how he got to that point. They're not going to let Jonathan Mobo play like Draymond Green. This is a waste of time, man. He's going to get technicals and thrown out, and he's not going to have a winning effect. So this is a big waste of time. There's better defenders in the league that actually defend and don't just kind of do thuggish things and talk and psychology. Jonathan Mobo does not have the personality of Draymond Green. He cannot play like him because he's not going to speak like him on the court. That's half of Draymond's game is talking and being an asshole and being all about everything. That's Marina Mabrey. No, Jonathan doesn't have it in him. He's a man of Christ. He's a nice guy. And I could never see him trying to be like Draymond Green. That don't make no sense. It's a waste of time. And the NBA would never let him play like him. Trust me. There's nobody in this league they let do that hardly. Dylan Brooks, you got to go through the bullshit and get suspended and pay a bunch of fines and get the reputation. And then when you get to the other side and you're known for it and you're bona fide, maybe you're allowed to do more of it and it's more healthy. But most of the time, if you're starting that out, they nip it in the bud. They just say, oh, this guy's trying to be the next Draymond. This guy's trying to be the next Dylan Brooks. Let's punish his ass and make him dissuaded from being like that. So, yeah, this don't make no sense. Draymond has nothing to teach nobody. He's a one of one. In fact, what did he say on Fred's Unguarded podcast? He said, when people come up to me and say that my kid plays like you, I turn and say to them, well, your kid sucks then. That's what he says to families, like the parents. A parent will come up to say, Draymond, my son plays just like you in his league. Well, your son sucks then. is what he says to them. So nobody should be emulating Draymond Green. This is a horrible idea. I'm going to give you a strike for such a bad idea. It's just a jokey strike. I'm not trying to get you off the channel, but that's a strike, man. Just a really dumb idea. Nobody else can be Draymond Green. Trust me. Nobody. Fiercely saying this. Yes, said Trevor. I was looking for him on the bench or a group pick. No Fultz. No, they cut him. His 10-day contract ran out after the last game before last night, and they didn't refill it. They didn't fill it with nobody. So we're running with the empty chamber again, an empty spot. That's right. That's right. Let's see. Smooth saying Detroit would be matched up with Charlotte, I think. Okay, I'm. This is going to change so much, though. Mobo's better than Orlando Robinson, though. I mean, in some ways, it's like you're comparing two different kind of players, honestly. You got a traditional big with traditional size, and you got a hybrid big who's kind of like a little light and can't throw weight around like Orlando Robinson. It's very different. I wouldn't say that Mobo's necessarily better than Orlando Robinson. I would say they're probably even. They're probably pretty even, honestly. But Mobo wins that edge because he's Scotty's guy that he grew up with. So he's going to win that edge in that situation. Mobo may be more versatile, but Orlando's a better defender down low, and he's also a better rebounder. I would say that. I would say that. Fiercely saying Niara Sabali was injured, but extremely impactful when she returned to the Liberty roster. She was the backup big when Jonquel Jones was injured, but I agree with you, Lex. Yeah, some people may not be big on her selection. I don't know why. Is she slow? I don't know. Is she injury prone? I don't know. We're going to have to learn. But the background on her is they wouldn't have gone and got her if Sandy and Olaf didn't think she was worth getting, seeing as they both know her really well and coached her. Once again, that's going to be very helpful with the very short ramp up to the season for the WNBA that we got to do this month, the prior connections. And there's a lot of them. You know what? Let's keep going. Let's go do another player real quick. The next player that we got was the other player from the Liberty we got, which is a project out of France. And her name's Aja Kane. She's 6'3". And I went and watched her highlights. She's so unknown. She doesn't have a Wikipedia page, guys. She has not played in the WNBA yet. She was a stash project for the Liberty, and she's a big. She's a very long arm big. She's a shot blocker. She's really nasty. And well, she's somebody that we don't expect to possibly have this year. She's a stash. She's a long arm center project for the future. And we just have the rights to her. And we took the rights to her from the Liberty. So she's never played in the WNBA, but she has real promise as a shot blocker and a rebounder for the WNBA when she does finally show up. So Aja Kane is interesting for that. And once again, that's one of the two players from the Liberty organization. And, you know, when they went to scout in Europe in December, maybe Monica and Eli went and visited Aja in France and saw what she's all about. But our French player, she's the center project. And, well, she speaks French too. So obviously that's good for being on the Canadian team. Once again, just like Julie Alamont. So, yeah, very European flavor. I've noticed these Europeans around women's basketball are very interconnected and by across nations. You know, Julie Alamont has connections to the German Niara Sabali, and they have connections to the Serbian Nina Milic. They have connections to Maria Conde of Spain. We got a United Nations of a team yesterday when they selected the expansion draft. They really did. This next player is Nikolina Milic, who's Serbian. So she's going to have an instant friend with Darko. Now, Nikolina, if she goes by Nina for short, is very similar to Conde in a way. She's the oldest player we took yesterday. She's 31. She's very soon going to be 32. In fact, in like 8 days, Nina is going to be 32 years old. And she's the oldest player we selected yesterday. Now, she's a forward. She's very gritty and physical once again. She's somebody who's played on the Lynx. Once again, we took two of the Lynx's big, powerful forwards that are defensive. She's very physical. She can mix it up with people. And she's very hard-nosed. In some ways, she's an extension of Marina Mabry as far as like, if Mabry needs people to back her up that aren't afraid to mix it up, well, Milic is one of those players. Let's just put it that way. Conde and Milic are similar as they're just fierce competitors that will sacrifice their body and go all out for their teams. And well, Milic has got some interesting traits about her. She's 6'3", 172 pounds, and she's played the last 2 seasons for Minnesota. So yeah, she's a very interesting player. Let me go look at her Wikipedia again because there's some interesting things on here that I remember. Like I said, she plays for Fenerbahce too. So she's played with Julie Alamán and Niara Sabali. So the 3 of them were on, like, I think they were like the champions last year, even. Like Fenerbahce is a serious team. Like they win a lot, guys. They win a lot. Like if I'm looking at Milic's career accolades, she's a EuroLeague champion of 2024. She's a 2-time FIBA Europe Super Cup Women's Champion 2023-2024. She's a 2-time Turkish Super League champion 24-25. She's a 2-time Turkish Cup champion, 2 Turkish Super Cup champion, and a Triple Crown champion too. So she's won a lot overseas playing for the Turkish team Fenerbahce. And well, she's got 2 years of experience with the Minnesota Lynx and some playoff experience with them too, as being a rotational big for the Lynx, a winning team, a team that had the best record last season, right? So we got her and Masha from the Lynx, 2 big, powerful forwards that are very physical and strong. She can slash to the basket. She's got good turnarounds, and she does have a little bit of a 3-point shot also. So yeah, so a little bit of background on Nina Milic, who's a Serbian player that we drafted yesterday for the Tempo. Yeah, a lot of these ladies shoot from 30 to 36% from 3. I think the only player that we drafted yesterday that can't shoot the 3 is Sabali. Every single one of the rest of them all shoot the 3, including the 2 bigs from the Lynx that we took, Masha and Nina. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, Nina's a hard-nosed player. She's going to be one of the older players on the team this year. She's going to be one of the older players. If she does get on the team, we'll just have to see. We'll just have to see. Yeah, let's see. Okay, Fiercey's saying she's a force, and her extensive experience on the FIBA circuit and connections will definitely help the Tempo. Sabali. Yeah, Sabali is interesting because she is an important player for the German team. She's probably good friends with Dennis Schroeder. I'm not gonna lie. Much like the Gasols look out for Maria Conde, I bet you Dennis Schroeder is cool with the Sabali sisters. I bet you he is. You bet you he is. Neil's saying this: NBA extension needs to happen. 32 teams mean they can change the regular season. You mean expansion. You put extension. 32 teams mean they can change regular season to 78 games and put all teams in the playoffs, no revenue lost, and eliminate tanking behavior. That's an interesting concept. I don't think that's how you get rid of tanking behavior, though. I still think that the best thing is to get rid of the lottery. The lottery is stupid. But in some ways, Adam Silver don't want to get rid of the lottery because it's his best way to manipulate the results and funnel players to who he wants to go to where by having the lottery. If they had balls, they get rid of the lottery because the lottery is the thing that encourages tanking. It has nothing to do with anything else. If they have a system that's otherwise than the lottery for determining the order of who gets to pick who, they would fix the tanking problem. I think that it really is directly correlated to the idea of a lottery and a chance and ping pong balls and percentages. If you did a point system, like I said before, maybe you do something where after the All-Star break, you keep track of all the quality wins that a team has had for the whole entire season, and you reward the eliminated teams from the postseason with the highest pick in the draft. And that means all the teams are playing out for the rest of the season, no matter what, whether they're playing for better playoff seeding because they're a winning team or they're a losing team and they know they have to win to get the highest pick in the draft. That's the way you fix it. That's the easiest solution. Nobody in the league wants to cut the season down to 78 games. And they've already argued about this. The Players Association would love to do that. The owners will hate that because they want the money of every revenue of every game that plays. But you're saying you cut 4 games off the season to make the tournament bigger for the postseason and include all the teams in the postseason. It's an interesting idea. I'm not going to say that it wouldn't work. It might actually work. But I think if you're going traditionalist and you want it to kind of stay similar to the system they've got right now, you do something more similar to what I described before. So, but this is an interesting idea, Neil. I'm not saying that this wouldn't work, but the arguing about how long the season will be is very, very hot topic, hot button issue between the owners and the players. And the owners are not about shortening the season in any kind of way, even though the players have wanted to do this for years already. They think that it's too long and they would love to make the same money and play less games. And well, the owners won't make as much money if there's less games. So yeah, maybe your system could be worked out to fix it for everybody to be happy. Fiercely saying with the Lynx, Klendikova was a reliable backup big who stretches and shoots threes very well. Her fundamentals are good. So maybe in some ways, if we're looking at her player comparison in the NBA, it's like a guy who's on the Timberwolves named Naz Reid. Yeah, maybe in some ways, Masha, the Russian, is a little bit like the player type Naz Reid is as a off the bench big who's good defensively with long arms, and also can hit threes. So that's kind of the player comparison I'm hearing there is like she's a Naz Reid of the WNBA. In some ways, that size and strength is comparable to his and what he does in the NBA. As far as think about Naz Reid, if for anybody who's not really well known with the WNBA, in some ways I'm going to be doing comparisons like this. In some ways, it's not to be insulting to put down the women of the WNBA or any way. Like if I say Marina Mabrey's like Kyle Lowry, it's not because of their butts. Okay, let's not get mad, but it's like also I'm not trying to put down the league or this is an area that I'm going to have to be sensitive to, and I want people to call me out if I'm sexist, if I'm mansplaining, if I'm saying something that's out of pocket. Y'all need to call me out and set me straight. That's the one thing about this channel is I'm not perfect. I know I'm not. I'm here to learn just like y'all. And covering the WNBA is a new area for me in this depth. And I want to be sensitive to issues in certain ways. So if I say something fucked up, definitely tell me. Definitely tell me, But for me to get a better understanding of this league and the tempo and what we're doing now, I may make comparisons to the NBA at times just to help myself and other people on this channel to understand what we're talking about. So if I say Mash is like Naz Reid, it's not meant to be an insult. And in some ways, you would say, why do you even have to compare the ladies to the men? Well, because in some ways, for our knowledge base and expanding it and understanding these players better, sometimes this is the easiest way to shorthand. This is the comparison. I want to make sure that I'm clear about that. Fiercely saying Aaliyah Nye was not getting much playing time with the Aces as they were stacked. But when she was given the opportunity, she was very good and contributed. So, yeah, that's the other thing. I'm not a big WNBA expert. It's a very new thing to me. So there's going to be Raptor freaks like Fiercey and Trevor that may be a little bit more well versed with the women's game, unrivaled, and the WNBA. And I may lean more on some of y'all to give me more information and your insight. Let's just say I look at Fiercey and Trevor as being WNBA experts already. And in some ways, they're going to be teaching me through this channel in some of their comments. So I'm going to put a lot of weight into MJ and Trevor because I know Trevor does know the WNBA very well. He's been watching it very closely for a few years now. That I want to lean on you two in particular, and there may be other Raptor freaks too that know more about the WNBA than me, that I want your information. And I want you guys to be kind of experts for me on this channel because it can help flesh out us covering this correctly. And I appreciate y'all's information and y'all's intellect on basketball because I know y'all know basketball real well. So yeah, she's saying that Nye didn't get a lot of chances, but when she did, she looked real good when she was out there. I like that. Yeah, Reggie's saying Mabrey is the unrestricted free agent, right? Yes, she is. But like I said, Monica Wright Rogers wouldn't have taken her like that if she didn't think she's going to core her up and give her the big money, a big chunk of our salary cap to start, and she's going to be a franchise face. Oh yeah, she's going to be a franchise face for the Tempo. They're going to lock her down. It wouldn't make any sense to use the pick and not come through and do this. This is like something where you don't half-ass this shit. They had to work it out with her and say, "Yeah, are you going to be open to be coming to Toronto? Because we're starting a new team, and you can be the face. You could be on all the ads, and you could be like a poster woman across Canada in this kind of way. It's going to open up things for you in a whole other level you didn't realize, Jersey girl." It's like, let me think about that. You know, it's kind of like that. Mo's here. Good to see the super fan. Monique Lawrence is in the house. Good morning, Raptor Freak crew. Much needed Raptors win. Way to go, Tempo. Carlton. Yeah, she's the same way as me yesterday. I was talking to Mo after the Portland Fire snaked us and took Bridget Carlton, ruining a Canadian woman's dreams and Canada's dreams of having her on the team. Yeah, shots fired, Fire. And well, Fire, we're going to set fire to your team and mess you up when we play y'all. In some ways, for Bridget. Of course, Bridget will be playing against us. And Bridget will be wanting to go up against the Canadian team, just like Dylan Brooks does, too. We'll just have to see how it all plays out. Super fan Mo. But yeah, interesting, exciting times in Toronto with the Tempo starting, but not with BC. BC's going to be over near BC, just south of the border in Portland. That's right. Fiercely saying, Sanaya Rivers, that is the girlfriend of Marina, is very good, but I'm not sure about partners who also play on the same team. Can be a distraction, in my opinion. You know, that I would think that this could go both ways. You know, the whole thing about it is the danger of like, all right, you don't date at work, right? That's a big thing you say, right? And I've been in this situation. In fact, it was with the woman that looked like Marina that I used to date. I used to date an actor, a Toronto-based actor model, and she's very talented, very beautiful woman. And she kind of has some of the same features as Marina Mabry. It's very similar kind of style in some ways, like it's a fashion style too. And well, we worked at the same bar on Queen in downtown Toronto, and I was the bar back. She was the bartender, and we had a secret late relationship behind the scenes. Nobody knew we were dating. The customers didn't know. Our coworkers didn't know. Our bosses didn't know. This was a dangerous game that Lex was in. It was a heartbreaking game. Just think about it. You know, what does a bartender do in the bar? She flirts with the customers to get higher tips. So I had to sit and watch that all night, even though in some ways my heart was for her and hers was for mine. She had to make that money. And that was tough to deal with sometimes. Let's just put it that way. If things go south when you're in a relationship in a workplace, it can make work really suck. It can become hell. It's just not fun. Trust me. And well, maybe in some ways this is healthier for Marina Mabry to not be on the same team as her girlfriend. Who knows if they continue to stay together? Maybe it's a proximity relationship because they saw each other every day and they just really got on well. I don't know. This is an interesting situation. It can be a distraction, I'll bet, if it's getting toxic and they're fighting. But it could also be very nice and it could actually buoy the spirits and make you inspired to play at a higher level too. So it's a two-edged sword, and it may not be totally always positive or negative at either time. Either way, they seem so tight, and a lot of general WNBA fans are lamenting the sadness of the breakup because Marina is now a Tempo. So this is an interesting situation. You know, could it be that not initially we don't get Rivers, but there's some sort of situation where an opportunity opens up and all of a sudden we can reunite them later? Who knows? Who knows? We'll have to see. But you know, I in general, because this may be a new aspect that I'm not used to, because obviously there's not a lot of NBA players that are in relationships with each other. That in the WNBA, this is something that you've got to kind of keep into account and think about whether this relationship is positive or negative for team chemistry. Yeah, you got to think about that. Most saying I'm following all the Tempo stuff already, etc. Yeah, I've seen already. You know, I'm going around collecting all the new Tempo players on Instagram, and I'm seeing Superfan Mo's already following all of them. I show up and I'm like, oh, Mo's already following Naraya, already following Julie, already following Maria, already following all of them. She's fallen all of them already. She's already in there and fallen now. Yeah, let's do another profile real quick. We'll do Kitty Lax. Kitty is fun. Kitty, in some ways, Kitcha is her real name, but they call her Kitty. So we have a player on the tempo named Kitty, and in some ways that's kind of fun. She's from Latvia, just like Porzingis. And Latvia is one of the Baltics, just like Estonia, where my family's from. And she's an interesting player. She's one of the two rookies from the Mercury that we got. So she kind of comes together with Lexi Held as two rookies from last year. And she's 29, so she's an older rookie. She came to the WNBA a little late, but both of them are similar. They're both very good sharpshooters. Kitty Laxka is a legend in University of South Florida in Tampa. I know that school because I had a friend that went to that school when I was in Florida. And the Bulls are a proud team, if not a small college, that gets some respect and some accolades here and there, even though they're like a Division II college. Now, Kitty was such a good college player for the South Florida Bulls. That's their team, South Florida. And she got her number retired, and she had a big, huge ceremony. And so she's honored down there. And she's even said publicly that her home is Tampa. She loves the city of Tampa and the time that she spent in college for South Florida. Now, she's an interesting player. She's played a lot for the national team of Latvia. And so she has extensive experience in Europe in FIBA competition and the national stage. The other thing about her is she was on the Fenerbahce people too. She was with that group also. So she's got some connections to Alamon and also Milic and Sabali. So she's a Fenerbahce. So that's an interesting part there. And of course, she's very, very close with Lexi Held because they were rookies together last year and they bonded strongly on Phoenix Mercury. So they're kind of a little pair as far as friends. In some ways, they have similar attributes as far as their skills. Very similar kind of frames and similar size as shooting guards and 3-point specialists. So Kitty and Lexi, in some ways, are going to be a choice to see kind of thing. It could very well be like Grady and Jameson kind of stuff. Is what I'm talking about with Kitty and Lexi. So yeah, a little bit about the Latvian player. And we'll go ahead and finish it off with the final player that we picked yesterday, which was Christy Wallace, the Australian. Now she's older. She's 30. She's older than the other ladies. And well, she's played for Sandy, obviously, on Team Australia in Olympics and at FIBA competition. Now, the thing about Christy Wallace is she didn't play in the WNBA last year. She sat out and played overseas instead of coming to play in the WNBA. And she has a few years where she didn't come to play. That's the thing. Some of these international players don't think it's worthwhile to come to the WNBA because the pay wasn't so good. Well, the new CBA has changed, and it could be that Christy Wallace is returning to the WNBA. Now, it's interesting because she is kind of like in that category of a kind of player, kind of like Caitlin Clark or Marina Mabry. She's a scorer that can fill it up real fast. And she, in some ways, the Fever players, Fever fans were kind of sad to lose her rights, but some of them don't like her either. I think it's very interesting the relationship that Christy has with Sandy. And the fact that she's on the Opals, the Australian women's national team, and the long relationship that Christy has with Sandy, this could very well be like Darko with Dennis Schroeder in the first year of Darko. You want to have a point guard or a player, an older player that you trust, that can be a team leader, that knows you really well and what you value. In some ways, that's why Christy Wallace is on this team, is because she knows Coach Brondello very, very well, playing for her for Team Australia. So I think that's why she's around. Now, another thing is, once again, just like Conde, Wallace may not come to the WNBA this year. And it could very well be that the Tempo are holding her rights, kind of like Kane and Conde, that they just want to hold rights. And because some of these expansion picks yesterday, they, like I said, they may be delayed. They may be things that come through next year or in the years later. So we'll have to see if Christy Wallace returns to the WNBA. She did react to the pick of her onto the tempo, and that's a good sign that she is going to show up and want to play for her national team coach in the WNBA on the Toronto tempo. So yeah, Christy Wallace is a guard. She's 5'11", and she's got some interesting history as far as like her international play and the things she's done so far in her career. She's a tough nosed scorer kind of player. So yeah, she's been around a lot of different places. So yeah, Christy Wallace is the final pick in the expansion draft we had yesterday for the Toronto Tempo. So yeah, hopefully this kind of gave you a good overview of the 11 women that were selected to be the inaugural Toronto Tempo players. Once again, disclaimer, not all of them will be on the team this year. Some of them definitely will be, but some of them will not be on the team. In fact, some of this could be training camp battle, which is going to happen later this month, and we're going to cover it all, and somebody may get cut, and it may be one of these names that I just went over. If you guys have any questions further about the 11 women, bring them up, and we'll talk about them real quick. But I really did go in depth, and you can see how there's all these different interconnections, whether it's the Team Germany connections, the Fenerbahce connections, Australia connections, teammate connections from the Mercury. There's a lot of connections already layered in to the chemistry of this team from how they drafted it and who they are. And once again, I'll say this, just like Norman Powell and Fred VanVleet bonded and Kyle Lowry bonded on their views of the game and the basketball and their values about being a player and how you work. There's a lot of that kind of shared stuff I can see with the different women they picked yesterday. There's Conde and Milic. They have the same kind of values as Marina Mabrey, as competing and fighting and playing as hard as they can to try and win. So there's a lot of common threads with that too. Yeah, very international team. In some ways, there's only really 2 Americans on this team, and everybody else is from around the world. Very European team. Very European. Yeah. Yeah. Isaac Campbell's saying this: Boston is in trouble. Boston's in trouble. What's going on? Colin Murray-Boyles will be going for 83 points, 43 free throw attempts alone. I love this. I'm going to give you a dunk for silliness because this sounds crazy. They're not going to give him that many free throws. They won't do that, especially if we have Ed Malloy tomorrow. 72 on the dunk charts for Isaac Campbell with his silliness. It's just silliness, man. Jimmy's saying we are very capable of beating Boston. We owe them. We don't want to be swept this season. Scotty Barnes, you want to be swept by the Celtics this year? No, you don't. You want to beat the Celtics. We owe them. We got to stop streaks from getting swept. And in some ways, that means we should win both the Celtics and the Knicks game if you want to stop from getting swept. That's right. That's right. Yes, we can. Yes, we can definitely beat them. Is what Fiercey's saying. I love that. Fiercey's saying, thank you for the tempo roster scouting, Lex. Makes it so much more exciting to hear about the talent coming to Toronto. I think they did a good job overall, nailing a pivot, nailing a point guard, and then getting a lot of really good three-point shooters with experience, and not necessarily WNBA experience, but international experience, FIBA experience, EuroLeague experience, Australian experience, and then also this whole idea of competitors and kind of an edge. And, I think they did maximize getting as much talent as they could too, potential talent. So some of these players are unknowns to the WNBA and have the ability to have an immediate impact on a level that maybe not totally foreseen because they haven't actually come and played yet, like Conde. Conde's definitely like that. Yeah. Stargate's saying, I'm not a big WNBA fan, but if the tempo draft Kiki Rice, I'm watching for sure and buying jerseys. Okay, Stargate. We'll tell Teresa and Monica that, and we'll see if they just want to fulfill your wishes just to get you on board. Yeah, I have a feeling you're going to be coming around, whether we get Rice or not. I have a feeling you're going to be coming around because you love basketball. And in some ways, you love this channel. And you're going to be around here. We're going to be talking about it this summer. And I think that you might get drawn in partly just because we're going to be talking about it on the channel, reacting to the games all the time, all summer, as the WNBA season unfolds for the first year of the Toronto Tempo. You're going to get dragged into this. Trust me, you will. Y'all, let's do the straight goods on Canadian goods. This is one of my favorite Canadian companies. This Canadian company is a role model for other companies around the world for how you should act. And that's Chapman's. Whoa, that jumped up and went away. Yeah. Is my mic still working? Check. All right. Yeah, I don't know why it jumped up like that. Sorbet. Chapman's ice cream is a great Canadian company. You know, they vowed during this tariff situation with the United States, they'd never raise their prices. And, you know, it's really paying off for Chapman's. Being the most prominent ice cream company in Canada, they've had to buy more facilities and hire more people because of their business practices and staying true to Canada. So I love Chapman's, and I in particular love the sorbet. And let me just tell you about the sorbet a little bit real quick. It's perfectly refreshing, perfectly natural, and perfectly fun. Made with natural fruit juices and purees, Chapman's sorbets are lactose free, peanut free, nut free, and gluten free. The only thing they're not missing is the flavor. Our sorbets are a refreshingly fun choice, whether you're looking to cool down on a hot summer day or cleanse your palate between courses. Available in 4 classic fruit flavors in our 2-liter tubs. That's the pina colada sorbet, triple berry sorbet, the mango sorbet, and the one I've got in my hand right here, the rainbow sorbet. So good. And honestly, this company is such a Canadian hero. Chapman's ice cream, support them. Straight goods of Canadian goods. You're buying any ice cream, this is the only company you should be buying from. Forget all the rest. This is the one because you know you're supporting our country when you buy Chapman's. That's right. That's right. Fiercely saying this: the Fire drafted Nika Mule, but she's not out the whole. She's out the whole season to come due to a torn ACL. That is not a strategic move, in my opinion, as they could have had a functional player their first year. Well, you know, they also didn't take all their picks. Both teams could have picked an extra player yesterday, and they didn't. They only took 11 players each. They could have taken 12. And that's strategic in some ways for the unrestricted free agency market and getting an extra player in free agency. Also, the draft. They could have, you know, because the Tempo have 4 draft picks. They might need that extra spot that they didn't take in the expansion draft for either a free agent or that. Now, the planning of the Portland Fire could be that they're stashing a talented player that'll be out for this year, and they don't care because they want to have her when it comes back around when she's healthy. So there's some strategy to this. Like I said earlier, it may not be that the Fire are trying to win this year. In some ways, the way they did the expansion draft yesterday shows that they're not going to be competitive, and they are trying to tank to a degree for the draft next year. And that's why they would pick someone like Nika. You know, does that make sense? Stargate saying Tempo need a hard nosed point of attack defender like Kiki. Well, you know, we'll have to see. I don't know who's this exactly on our team, but I've heard good things about Lexi Held as far as how she plays defense is pretty tenacious. I mean, Marina Mabry's the kind of defender that's annoying, and she's just going to be kind of like talking trash and physical with you. So I don't know. We'll just have to see how these players play for us and the synergy and the team and the team camaraderie and how they play off each other and what their identity and character is as they play. We'll have to see. We'll have to see. Kareem's here. Good to see Kareem Thomas, Raptor Freak family, our dunk champion. So the Toronto Tempo have the 6th, 22nd, and 36th pick. They have another one too. We also haven't picked our mascot yet, but the name is called Aura Audit. Like, is the mascot just going to run around and audit people? Metronome was an April Fool's joke. That was not their true mascot, but it was a good one. I thought it was funny, and it could have been a real one for them. I don't know. They still haven't announced this. They still got to announce and show the court, which they're going to reveal their court soon. There's still a couple of things they still got to do, and they'll get done in the next month. So yeah, just be patient. We'll get our mascot soon, I'm sure. But yeah, I mean, Aura Audit. No, they're doing all kinds of different kinds of cross promotions with companies. I think one of them is a tax services, so they're involved or something, and maybe that's why they're calling it an Aura Audit or something like that. MOK 47474. Good morning. Thank you for joining the Raptor Freak channel and your subscription. I appreciate you being here. Hey, just got here. It's MK. Oh, okay, it's MK. Cool, it's Meredith. All right. How did we get Marina Mabry? She's a bucket. She's a bit of a hothead, so maybe that's why, but she is one of my favorites. Well, the intel on this is, last year, apparently people wanted to trade to get Mabry from the Connecticut Sun, but they said no. "No, we're not going to trade Marina Mabry. And maybe they should have at that time, but they didn't. And then the thing was that they figured out that, you know what, she's not going to want to resign with us. So they didn't protect her in the expansion draft. So that's part of it. They had 5 other players, the Connecticut Sun, that they protected, that they left Mabry out. And part of it is because they don't think that they had a good chance to re-sign her because of her unrestricted free agency status. So they left her unprotected, and the Tempo went and got her. Now, the way it's going to work is, as I described earlier, is if Monica Wright Rogers designates her a core player, we have rights to her, and it changes her unrestricted free agency to you're staying with the Tempo no matter what, and we're going to throw a huge amount of money at you. Like she's going to be probably the first $1 million player for the Tempo, and she'll be the franchise face this year. So it's a combination of the Sun knowing that they're not going to be able to retain her, so they didn't waste protecting her in the expansion draft. And well, the Tempo went and got her as probably the best unrestricted free agent that was left unprotected in this expansion draft. So they went and got the best player out there. MK, good to see you, man. Different name in there. MK's, of course, our WNBA fantasy champion. So he's going to know a bit about these women that we just got. That's right. Monique's saying, learning as we go, doing my research. I'm happy, loving the hype around Mabry. She's interesting, Mo. I think that we're gonna really love her. I think that we're really gonna love her. There's some Tempo fans like Catherine Naker, who's a fantastic podcaster. Her and Freddie Rivas are going to do a fantastic podcast called The Pickup all season long. They were at the press conference yesterday on press credentials. Freddie's such a good friend. I love Freddie. And Catherine's awesome too. I've done podcasts with them in the past. Well, Catherine's a real expert on the WNBA. She's also a big time stand up comedian downtown. But she loves Mabry. And when they got Mabry, she freaked out yesterday. She was like, oh my gosh, they got Marina. And she's very happy on cloud 9. And like I said, the things I'm hearing are like Monique, that Marina Mabry is a cross between Kyle Lowry and Steph Curry. She can hit logo threes, and she's that bulldog kind of mentality competitor like Lowry. So she's going to immediately be a fan favorite. And she's going to bring a lot of extra drama because there is some Dylan Brooks, Draymond Green, Dennis Rodman to her also as a villain in this league. So it's going to set the tone. If that's our first franchise face, is old Chef Mabry, Crash Out Mabry. It's going to set the tone. Seriously, it's going to be fun. Criscom's saying, what up, Lex and Raptor Street? Good morning to you, great Criscom. Hope you're doing good. How's your prediction yesterday? How are you feeling about the Raptors versus the Boston and the Knicks? We are getting swept or breaking those streaks. I don't know, man. In some ways, I say, look, you lose a game you should have lost. You got to win a game you should have won. And that's what we got to do tomorrow. We got to win a game we shouldn't have won. And in some ways, that's what they're saying about the game tomorrow, that we shouldn't win it. So maybe we need to go win it. That'll balance things out real quick, Scotty, Brandon, and RJ. You go beat the Celtics on Easter Sunday. That's right. KT saying this. I really like the thought of entertaining Precious again. Fucking Nick Nurse is so bad with development. Precious went to New York and carved a role with Tibbs. I would really love to see him and Mamu running. So you want to get Precious back in the offseason? Well, all things in the right order. He's in the Kings, and right now we got to go through WNBA stuff. And Precious Achua on the Raptors is not something that I'm worried about right now. But I do love Precious. I did speak of him very highly after they beat us the other night and the performance he did. He outplayed Scotty Barnes. And Scotty, you should be mad about that. Precious outplayed you. That's not the way it's supposed to go. Let's just put it that way. Let's see. Superfan Most saying W Stream, W Vibes. Go Raptors for life. Keep at it always, Lex. Raptor Free Crew strong forever. Just helping Lex limit the comments. Let's go Tempo. Yeah, let's go Tempo. And the 11 women that have been selected in the expansion draft. I love it. In some ways, I want Suge Sutton. She's a player that I've liked for years. on my fantasy WNBA team. I pick up Suge every once in a while, and she's just a good player in some ways, a hooper. But Portland got her. Portland got her. That's right. Neil saying we don't want much from Mobo. He can pop off in his fourth year from now. He can continue to grow. Yeah, Brian Macon keeps working with him, and he keeps working on certain stuff. Sure, there's potential growth, but in some ways, if he doesn't, it's not a big deal. It's like, ceilings are ceilings, and you may not know exactly where the ceiling is, and you can keep striving and achieving, but there is a baseline, a set foundation of an NBA acceptable level of play that Jonathan's playing at already. So it's like if he grows and becomes a better player, which all players should, especially if they're playing for Coach Rajakovic, yeah, he's gonna be fine. I'm just saying though, if he doesn't do anything more, in some ways, well, what do you expect? He's a second round pick out of University of San Francisco. What do you expect? Let's see. Neil's saying second round picks only need to average 5 to 10 points and a couple of rebounds. If they do better, bonus. Yeah, there's no hard, fast rules about this. None of that. Yeah. Stargate saying, oh, snap. The tempo got Sabali. Nice. Not Satu, but Niara. Niara Sabali, the younger sister. Not the all star. Not the one that's on the Mercury. But this is interesting, too. We could say Lexi Held and Kitty Laska, they both played with Satu Sabali, and now they're going to trade her for her younger sister Niara. So there you go. In some ways, they have Sabali experience playing with the sister on the Mercury in their first season. Now they go play with the younger sister on the Tempo. So there is some of that. Yeah, they're both very proud Muslims as well. That's right. That's true. I did read that yesterday, that Niara is a Muslim, just like Dennis Schroeder, and that they share that German Muslim faith. Yeah. Yeah. And she's very prominent in German culture as far as an women's basketball icon. Basketball is becoming more and more important in a country like Germany because of the success of Dennis Schroeder and Franz Wagner and the men's team. The women's team gets a lot of accolades and attention also. And the Sabali sisters are the centerpieces of that team as far as the celebrities. That's right. KT saying that Cops Coliseum or Coca-Cola Coliseum place will be sold out every game. I wonder what their next move will be in terms of a stadium. Well, the thing that's most important is not necessarily switching from Rico / Coca-Cola Coliseum. It's getting them a practice facility. One of the big things that's big in the WNBA right now is the teams that build these lavish OVO centers for their WNBA teams are getting attractive to WNBA players and free agents to come. And right now, the situation for the Toronto Tempo is they're going to be practicing at TMU. And this is similar to what the Raptors did when they were expansion team. They didn't have a dedicated practice facility. So the Raptors had to practice at Humber College. And that was a weird time because they literally would have to wait in the gym for like the Humber College volleyball women's team to finish before they could actually go practice. So you want a dedicated space like OVO Center. So honestly, it's not the arena. The arena's fine. They can play in that arena and they'll be good. And they may upgrade that down the road sometime. But the first thing they need to build is a practice facility. And Larry Tenenbaum's business being concrete, well, they can do that. They can build a practice facility for the Tempo that'll make it more attractive for WNBA free agents and players to want to come to Toronto, because this is something that's high on the want list for WNBA players, is a dedicated practice facility. And this is a detriment to the Tempo to start. The fact that they will be practicing at TMU, the Toronto Metropolitan University. So, yeah, that's what they got to do first. It's not Cops Coliseum. That's in Hamilton. It's Coca-Cola Coliseum, otherwise known as the Rico, where the Toronto Scepters play and where I saw Faith No More play years ago. Yeah, I saw Faith No More in that arena before. Yeah, they were good. They were good there. Yeah, Stargate saying Yak plays well against Boston. If they focus hard in guarding the three and if they can move the ball, a lot of Raptors have a good chance of winning. Yeah, in some ways, they got to shoot poorly against us in one of these games this year. Peyton Pritchard's got to be awful. You know what I'm saying? I want to see that. Stargate saying at Lex, let me rephrase. I'm not a big fan of the modern WNBA, is what I should say. One of my favorite basketball players, period, is Teresa Witherspoon, man or woman. There you go. There you go. So yeah, so he's watched WNBA. It's just that he's not been into it the last few years. Well, it's time to come back. We've got our Toronto team starting up. KT saying Giannis is being held out by the Bucks. Things might be unraveling pretty quickly. There's apparently an investigation by the NBA on the whole medical situation with Giannis. Giannis is adamant that he can play some more to finish the season, and the Bucks are making medical reports fudging him, saying he can't play. And well, the NBA is investigating now. I don't understand this situation totally. In some ways, it tells me a few things. That Giannis wants to be a Buck, that he wants to stay there. In some ways, it also tells me that the Bucks don't want to win any games for the rest of the season because they're trying to tank out, and that's why they don't want him to come back. But does that necessarily mean they want to trade him? ESPN and all them will make all the stories in the world because they love Giannis to be moved. The NBA would love Giannis to be moved. But I still think that even amidst this chaos and this weird dysfunction of disagreement about Giannis playing again this season, I think that they're still on the same page and they still want Giannis. I think that the Bucks, for as inept as their front office is and how bad it is, they're smart enough to understand, yeah, Giannis is the best we're going to get. We're not going to get anything better for him. We need to hold on to him as strongly as possible. So I think that once again, there's a lot of weird confusion with the disagreement, but they're taking this smoke and trying to make it as a fire of disagreement where they don't want to be together. I think that's wrong still. I think that's absolutely wrong. Giannis has been on this team this whole time. Him wanting to play still this season and risk injury further for the Bucks, who are going nowhere, tells me that he's a homer and he wants to stay in Milwaukee. That's the clearest logical thing that I can read from this. And to just jump to the conclusion that the Bucks don't want him anymore as part of this disagreement, that doesn't make any sense to me either. Because they got to know, unless they're really stupid, they're not going to do better than having Antetokounmpo on their team, no matter what the trade package is coming the other way. It's not going to fit, and they're going to lose something that's a heart and a soul of the city of Milwaukee and an economic driver. It's not worth it. If they really looked at all the pros and cons of everything, moving Giannis out of Milwaukee is not good for Milwaukee Bucks in any kind of way. And in some ways, Giannis has decided he's lazy, not lazy. He doesn't want to go to another team. He's very loyal. And like we said, his family's raised there. His kids know their whole life there. His father's buried there. So I think that once again, the ESPN hype machine, the NBA hype machine, they're wishing for this because they love something fresh, like Luka on the Lakers, with Giannis going to another destination. But I think the reality of it with the people that actually control this, which is the Bucks front office and Giannis himself, is not anything what the NBA wants. That he's going to be on that team. If Giannis is on the Bucks at the beginning of the season next year, you'll know I was right. If he isn't and he does get traded, well, I'm going to say that the NBA interfered probably and forced Milwaukee to trade him because you don't trade a player like him. He's a franchise player that you try and have in your jersey the whole entire career that he plays. It don't make no sense. It don't make no sense. There's shit about this that's not adding up. And some people are lying. And I'm pretty sure it's the media and it's ESPN and the NBA itself that's lying about Giannis in this situation. Seriously. All right, let me check on my tabs real quick. Let's see. I did that already. That's the Raptors Redditor of the day. Nothing on the breaking news. Y'all check on your fantasy teams if you're in the Final Four. I have a bit of a margin to make up with HC. It's looking like he's going to take this one. And Kaz is behind by more behind Amit, but maybe Trucker Kaz can still pull it out and get to the finals against likely HC because it's looking like he's separating from me as of yesterday. And to catch him, it'll be tough. So the finals will be set as of the end of the games tomorrow. So we'll have to see what happens. There's no birthday today. No birthdays. I did add all the WNBA players to our birthday list. So when their birthdays come through, we'll be celebrating the birthdays of Maria Conde and Julie Alamont. So yeah. All right, let's see. Who do we get? Oh, cool. All right, we'll do this one. First person to write the full name answer to the classic card gets the classic card. This is a weird angle to see their face, but hopefully you can still figure out who this is, even though it's not straight on. It's a little bit hard to see their face. Some people might think this is the guy who's playing for them right now, but it isn't. And see, Fiercey thought it was him. That is not Dame Lillard. This is an older player. It is not Damian Lillard. I can see why you thought it was him, though. It totally does kind of look like him, and it would make sense, but it is not Damian. No, this player is actually a former Raptor. This guy played on the Raptors for a little while, the player that's on this card today. Maybe that clue will help people figure it out. I don't know. Can you see him right there? Let me just put it this way. Here's a trivia question for you. This player went to the same university as Lexi Held. Yeah, it's Rod Strickland. Reggie got it. It's former Nick and former Raptor Rod Strickland. Yeah, he went to DePaul, and that is where Lexi Held went to her university days. That's right. Smooth Brown Man, classic card winner of the day. Rod Strickland, former Raptor. That's right. He did play for us for a little while there. That's a tough card, but he is kind of a well-known player. I'm going to give you 100 points for it, Reggie. Our Raptor Freak trivia champion at the past, Reggie, Smooth Brown Man. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, good job getting Rod Strickland. All right, I guess I'll wrap it up. We're about 15 minutes away from a 3-hour Lexathon. Might as well not go all the way the distance, right? Unless you guys have a little bit more you want to talk about. Oh, I see that Kareem posted a fight where Malachi Flynn got in a fight with Turkish players over in Turkey. That's interesting stuff right there. That's interesting stuff. What is this? I don't know. That's a weird Tempo logo y'all posted there. Yeah, I'll check out what y'all post in the Discord after I'm done. All right, let me finish up. We'll just go ahead and do the stars of the game once again for the Raptors game last night against the Grizzlies. RJ Barrett, #1 star. Colin Murray-Boyles, my 2nd star. Brandon Ingram, my 3rd star. Jamal Shed, my 4th star. And Scotty Barnes was my 5th star. And I'll give an honorable mention to Jakob Poeltl in that. But yeah, good job taking care of win against a lowly Grizzlies team that we had no business getting anywhere near possibly losing to, and beating them by 128-96. That's a good one. That's a good one right there. What is that? That's like a 32 point lead or something like that. 32-point win. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Yeah. Yeah. W Stream. Thank you, MJ. Let's go. Raptors in tempo. Luka out for the season, maybe the playoffs. Good. Good. I don't care about that. Good. Luka needs to go take time to cool off. He's in the middle of custody battle. He's got other things to worry about than playing basketball, honestly. All right, yeah. Congratulations, Toronto Tempo. Really happy to see the players we got. The point guard from Belgium, the first official Toronto Tempo player ever. It'll be in the trivia history books. Who's the first Toronto Tempo player? Julie Alamand of Belgium. And she is the point guard that we got. The second pick, Nyara Sabali of the German team, our big pivot from the New York Liberty, a champion with Sandy Brondello already and knows Olaf very well. Marina Mabry was our unrestricted free agent selection out of the Connecticut Sun. She is a badass. I'm just going to say that. She's a badass, and I'm looking forward to seeing her being a badass for the Toronto Tempo, as probably being the franchise face. Aaliyah Nye, sharpshooter from the Vegas Star Aces. Very, very strong rookie for them, and a champion also, winning her championship, a championship in the first year of playing in the WNBA for the Las Vegas Aces. Lexi Held, sharpshooter from Kentucky, coming from Mercury. Looking forward to her bombing some threes for us. Maria Conde, a European player that has not come to WNBA yet, played for Florida State, is very much very respected by the Gasols and the Hernan Gomez brothers. Yeah, she's something, and she's an unknown. She could be a real boost. Masha and Nina from the Minnesota Lynx, 2 big, strong forwards that can shoot threes and also play good defense. Love seeing that. Aja Kane is the project the center project we got from the New York Liberty, stole her from the New York Liberty. She's going to be down the road, French player. And we got also Kitty Laxa, along with Lexi Held, another three-point shooting specialist that may actually really help our team. And then finally, the Australian Christy Wallace, who's worked very closely with Sandy Brondello in the past on Team Australia, and probably a trusted on-court persona for Sandy as an extension of her on the court. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Fiercely saying John Morant looked hella depressed on the sidelines. He disappeared in the fourth quarter. He was done. Yeah, I don't care about John Morant and his yellow banana jumpsuit that he was in. Who cares? Who cares? That guy, yeah, he's led his franchise to the toilet as a franchise player. You can think about the waste of time he's been as far as trying to make him a face of the league or even a franchise face of the Grizzlies. Drop the ball, failure all around. That's how you go on that. That's right. That's right. Banana suit. He was in that banana suit. All right, y'all. I love y'all. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Thanks for watching the Raptor Freak stream today. Sorbet by Chapman's. Get it today. It's so good. Yummy, yummy. And I'll see y'all tomorrow. Preview of the Boston Celtics Easter Sunday game for the Raptors. The latest lineup news and the ref report. All the stuff you expect from Lex. 9:30 a.m. Sunday morning. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Good job, Tempo. I want to say this seriously. There's definitely a strong method to the madness of how Teresa, Monica, and Eli built this team yesterday. There's a lot of really smart stuff they did. There's a lot of interconnectedness. There's a lot of potential untapped talent that has not shown itself in the WNBA yet. And there's some known relationships that can really help them be okay with this very short lead up period into this season. So, it's good that the familiarity is there. They're going to need it because this thing's coming fast, really, really fast. You got to be live, Stargate. Rod Strickland. All right, y'all. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Let's go Tempo and let's go Raptors. Beat the Celtics.